agenda of the Single Family Design Review Board. May we have a roll call for attendance, please?
Chair Willis. Here. Vice Chair Seeley.
Here.
Bernie Bernstein.
Here.
Ryan Miller.
Here.
Lisa James.
Here.
J.J. Pierce.
Here.
And Jen Zimmerman.
Thank you. And just for the board edification, Chair Willory will be stepping down for the first item and then joining us after that. The chair opens public comment. Any member of the public may address the Single Family Design Board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for public discussion before the board today. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Let's move to approval of the minutes of the Single Family Design Board meeting of February 11th, 2013. The chair entertained a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Let's see, do we need to go through item by item, as I recall? Where is that? Minutes. All right. So does anyone have a comment on 616 East Valerio Street? Comments on 1642 Calle Cañon? Comments on 46 Camino Alto? Comments on item 4, 2082 Los Caneros Road? Item 5, 2430 Calle Alamonte. Item 6, 11 Via Alicia. Item 7, 1218 East De La Guerra. Hearing no comments, chair calls for a motion for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It's okay. Let's see, we're going to go to consent calendar for February 19th, 2013. Chair entertains a motion to
So
approve.
moved.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Michelle, can you read the comments, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Consent agenda from Tuesday, February 19th, 2013. Item A, 464 Yankee Farm Road. It's granted final approval as submitted.
Wait a second.
Item B,
wait a second.
1656 Los Canoas Road. Final approval as submitted. Item C, 163 La Jolla Drive. Granted approval as submitted of the review after final. Item D, 157 La Jolla Drive. It was granted project design and final approval as submitted. And item E, 1830 Overlook Lane, was continued indefinitely in the staff hearing officer and returned to consent with comments. Items on consent were reviewed by Brian Miller and Lisa James.
Any comments?
Madam Chair, yes. Could you briefly review for me the project C and D? I don't recall us seeing that, and maybe it went straight to consent. 163 and 157 La Jolla.
163 La Jolla was a review after final. They had a it was a revised project. They had a substantially larger remodel addition. They've revised their project to essentially just be minor facade alterations. And item D, 157 La Jolla Drive. That is the adjacent parcel owned by the same owner. And essentially what happens is they are relocating their driveway as currently shown on 163 La Jolla Drive and putting it on 157 La Jolla Drive and creating front entry gates and walls and landscaping. All conforms to zoning. These
I'm
items
just
were reviewed
wondering-
twice on consent and were continued and were approved last week.
I'm just wondering why these are going straight to consent.
It conforms to zoning and it's a minor alteration. The original project was reviewed by the full board. It's the consent members' discretion if they choose to refer to full board, but it was their decision to let it remain on consent.
Is this, one of these came to the board, it was a single-family house with a remodel about a year ago or so?
Something
Or
like
I don't
that.
remember when. I would like who's ever doing consent just to be aware that if it's controversial or if it could be deemed controversial, that they have the ability to send it back to the board. Because
Yeah,
that's
I reviewed it.
happening right now with another property, and I'm getting a lot of calls, and there's a lot of people that are, it's a different thing, but just
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
The,
They were advised, and he's
They
aware of
came
that.
back a second time with modifications that appease the
All
neighborhood
right, but-
somewhat.
yeah,
I
and-
think the neighborhood is, would rather get to see this come before the full board and, get it out there.
Well, that was a very lengthy conversation about that project on the board, and the depth, or what do I want to say, the level of the project didn't require that, because basically all they were doing was re-landscaping the front yard, relocating the driveway in their adjacent property with the garden wall, and the architectural remodeling was all in the back, I think, so it wasn't
Yeah,
even.
you couldn't, it was
you
not
couldn't even
visible
see
from
it. It
the
was like
street.
a little,
Okay.
unlike anything they were going to do earlier, which would have been major. And of course, I would have probably bumped that up, but I don't even think I would have seen it then. It would have gone to the full board.
Okay, thank you.
But we did have a very good community involvement. The neighbors did show up, and I think it ended up very positively. So
Good.
I feel pretty good about it.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further comments? Chair calls for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. And as I understand it, we did not have a meeting today.
No.
Consent calendar.
No consent.
So for February 25th, that's was canceled today. So we move on to announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have the announcement. As you'll see, we have passed out the new guidelines for the City of Santa Barbara Advisory Group that was approved by City Council recently. We just ask that you fill out the acknowledgement form that you received it and give that back to staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to share with my colleagues that I did attend the City Council meeting at which this item was heard and reviewed by council. I did not make any statements on behalf of the board or myself. One thing I'd like to point out as you read this document on page 23, the third paragraph down, in the draft that went to council for action, one thing they did change in the draft, there's a paragraph that begins, "The city believes that the advisory board members should not abstain or refuse to consider city application based on their personal and political beliefs." They took out the word generally. There was a recommendation by the city attorney's office that it would read, members should generally not abstain. They took out the word generally because I think the council was fairly emphatic that under the tutelage and advice of the city attorney's office that abstention should be used sparingly. Their concern was that too often review board members were using abstention as a way to not have to weigh in on a particular project. I thought the other interesting thing that was made during the set of comments at the city council meeting was the comment from the city attorney's office that said essentially the review boards, the other boards including our board, really sit in a lot of ways like a judge in a courtroom. And as you know, one of the requirements for a judge is to try to be as neutral as possible and just pay attention to the facts presented at that point of the application. And so I think the purpose of this whole document is to have folks restrain from making political statements based on their own personal beliefs that may or may not have anything to do with the facts that are sitting in front of us. And I think the example I was sharing with myself and a few other folks was, if I were sitting on a board right now that had brought a project to approve a shooting range, personally I'd probably have a very difficult time reviewing that project. However, having said that, given the fact that as a licensed professional architect, I have a duty to review the facts in front of me, regardless of my own personal political beliefs. So essentially, I think that's what they were trying to tell us. And so, as I was sharing with Brian a moment ago, it's a long document. I actually did take the time to go read it, but if you don't have time, a lot of the front half is just boilerplate stuff. Pay particular attention to the last 3 or 4 pages as you read it. That's my report. Any further announcements? Okay. Subcommittee reports. We have no standing subcommittees, so let's move into item number 1, 1512 Shoreline Drive. I have to read a statement. If you'll introduce yourself, please.
Robert Foley, designer of the house.
Denise Woolery, Canthus Design, landscape designer.
Okay. And as required under our new regulations, I need to read the following statement. The State Fair Political Practices Act, Regulation 18702.4, Subchapter B, Statement 5, states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to be present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for the client. Let it be known that Denise Woolery is a sole practitioner and is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of his or her client. Before you share with us your update, let me just read to you what was the last action of this board when it was approved, when it was reviewed on December 3rd. Let's see. 1, the board has positive comments regarding the project's consistency with the neighborhood, architecture, materials, landscaping, etc. The board finds that the second-story deck off of bedroom number 2 at the northeast corner is adequately screened at the 15-foot guideline for the rear property line, and the proposed east side 5-foot-high planter wall and planter bed provides adequate privacy screening for both the applicant and the adjacent neighbors. This project is subject to the following permanent conditions of approval. A, the usable deck area of the second-story deck off of bedroom number 2 may never be expanded beyond the proposed 6-foot by 6-foot dimensions. B, the deck planters and the 5-foot-high planter wall on the second-level deck off of bedroom number 2 must always remain planters, and the plantings must always be maintained in order to maximize privacy. See sheet 8 2.1. C, the site landscaping shall be maintained as a condition of approval to maintain and enhance privacy screening for both this resident and the adjacent parcels. Item 4, the board finds the proposed uncovered off-street parking space is acceptable as it adequately is screened from public view. The distance of the parking space from Shoreline Drive and the proposed landscaping shall be as shown on the plans. 5, the board finds that the location and size of the eastern windows to be acceptable as they proposed obscure and stained glass material will allow for both light into the residence and ensure adequate privacy for the adjacent neighbors. 6, applicant to provide compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management plan requirements prior to submitting for final approval. Action was taken on a 5-0 vote by Zimmerman, seconded by James. So if you'll...
Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
I might
ma'am.
just make a quick staff comment. I just passed out a staff memo to the board and to the applicant, and I just wanted to briefly bring your attention, as you read the condition or the motion from the last review, there were some specific conditions of approval that were being applied to this project, and as such, those were permanent conditions of approval. And so I just wanted to bring your attention to some of those items, and I have the memo specifies 4 items below. The first one, just to specify for the condition regarding the 6 by 6 foot deck, I would request and urge the board to include in their motion that a final approval set of plans submitted to the building department scales and labels that 6x6 dimension on the plans, and then also a note that it is a condition of approval to never exceed that 6x6 area. That was the usable deck space for that off of, I believe it was bedroom number 2 at the rear of the property. Second, also regarding this deck, there was a 5-foot planter wall that was specified to be maintained, and the design included the 5-foot high planter wall. After looking at the plans, it appears to scale out at 4 feet. This could just be a scale issue or something in that regard, but if it does, in fact, I would recommend to the board and to the applicant that it be revised. The 4-foot, as shown, complies with solar. The 5-foot, as shown last time or specified last time, was required by the board. This is the planter wall off the second level deck at the rear of bedroom number 2, and I would just specify that that be maintained at the 5-foot, and that in order to also be in compliance with the required solar access ordinance, that they perhaps adjust the plane so it's taken in as necessary to meet the 5-foot and to meet solar. And then, let's see, item 3 on the memo, just specifically, you guys had mentioned in the project design approval motion that the landscaping is approved or is required to be maintained. Just want you to look at that carefully and specifically point out specific landscaping that you think should be maintained for privacy. Generally, this condition is rare for single-family design board approval, and it should just be limited to a hedge or a tree. Shouldn't be the entire plan. So, and as noted, I think you guys have that discussion today in this review, and that you specify on the plans it shall be as noted for the conditions of approval. And if you have any other questions, let me know.
Okay.
I have one question. Thank you. When and if we apply these, for example, the usable deck, do these things, do they, so let's say the property sells in a year, then is it a permanent restriction, or how does that work?
It is a permanent restriction, and that's again why I'm saying it should be noted on the plans that are submitted to the building set, because that will be the final record archive set. The only way that it could at any point in the future change is if they came back, did a revised project, and then the board made a new motion. But in this point, if they just wanted to, say for instance, eliminate that planter area and make it deck and not do anything else to the project site, we would say that's a condition of approval, and that's not going to be allowed ever.
And maybe I'm not remembering right, but did they take away, was there a garage and then a deck on top of it, and did they take that deck away, or is that still there? So we'll hear about that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If you could share with us, you're up to date, and as I understand it, we're here today for final approval. We could also give final approval with anything you might want to send to consent calendar. So one of those two actions should be on the phone.
Needs a green light.
It's a green light.
Green light is on.
You're okay.
All right, here we go. I just want to address these things quickly before we go. Before we get into the plan, I'm gonna have Denise start with the landscaping because it addressed most of the stuff anyway. Is it not on?
Oh, there, it's real good.
Okay, it's a brighter green it's on. So, I guess you answered some of these questions. The owner asked me, so I'm entitled to ask you. I knew this was going to come up, and I had a conversation with him this morning. And let's say the scenario comes down in 2 years, he decides that he wants to reconfigure a deck or reconfigure the deck's planing, whatever he wants to do. I mean, does he have the right to come in and just propose a change to what it was and come back to the board and say, this is what I want to change on the decks? I want to put more planting over here and put less over here and put more decking over here. I mean, he doesn't have to stick to this exact footprint, but if he does make a change, he has to come back and get your approval. Is that correct?
Yes, if it affects the condition of approval specifically, then yes, it should come back to the full board for a proposal. And then it would be before the board to make any future decisions.
I understand it would be highly unlikely for him to come back and say, I forget about the plan.
He has the right to come back.
But he does have the right to come
Yes.
back. Okay. I'll get into that 5-foot wall when we get to the elevations. These are the landscaping you can do. So when we are going to condition some of the landscaping on the property, I've ran into this in other cities where you start conditioning landscaping and you get into people's private gardens, and it gets a little weird. You know, people start counting tulips, and then you can't get your final because you put in tulips instead of roses. I mean, are we going to go that far? Or are we going to just do the permanent screening? Or what exactly are you asking us to?
That's part of the purpose of this memo, is the project design approval, as specified, conditioned landscaping to remain. And I'm asking them at this point to be very specific, because yes, ordinarily we don't want to get that into somebody's backyard and start counting tulips versus roses. That's not the intent. What we want to do is, if there was a privacy concern or some screening concern, those are the specific items that should be called out to be conditioned.
Okay. That's all I want to thank you for your explanation. That's perfectly fair, I think. You're up. Let's do
I'll
this.
go first? Okay. Well, let's kick back here then to the landscape. Actually, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. That looks good.
Where am I? All right. I'm not sure exactly where I start. No, we didn't have the conceptual plan actually. I did this from last time, I guess.
Conceptual.
That very original conceptual plan. I thought that was going to be part of the septic system.
Oh,
No worries. Okay. Well, this just starts out with the hardscape plan. And what's happening on the ground plane is we have this particular system here. It's an NDS called Tough Track that will be permeable driveway. And it's going to have a plant called Diamondia in it, which is a very tough little, rugged little flat plant. And therefore it will remain drought tolerant as well as permeable at the same time. And that would be all in through here. And probably I will carry that through some of these cracks between these paving stones as well. It's a great system. It sort of takes the place of Grasscrete, that old-fashioned stuff that nobody uses anymore because it's really not pretty. Too much diopter. And I have a detail for that didn't get on here, but that's what it looks like, and that's what the compaction underneath is, and it all depends on how much traffic it takes. This is a residential driveway, so I imagine it would be minimum, but they have all those specifications for the system. Okay. Then we have here a water feature that will be right through the main gate with some stepping stones over the water, coming to the front door, which is way over here. And this will be engineered by others, and detailed drawings are not completed yet for that. There's going to be scuppers coming through this wall here that will spill into the water feature. We've got an outdoor barbecue here. I'm going to use this pointer so I can't remember that. Outdoor barbecue here, and we have 4 raised veggie beds here. This is all paving. This is open to a wall here. What's over here? Sorry. It's open to, and then there's a wall here on which I would like to do something like this. There's a system that I have in mind. It's not a great picture. This gives you kind of a close-up of what it can look like. It's a living wall system. And it's the one I'm looking at is our plastic cells that look like just plastic squares, and they're all set up for drip above. And seems to work quite well. And that would be on this wall, possibly not the whole wall, but as like a portrait or a painting on the wall. I've not decided what size that's going to be yet. Oh, that didn't really happen just now. Anyway, then we've got a lot of connection all the way around here. Here's a spa in the back, a naturalized spa, and an outdoor shower that I'm considering doing this out of rebar that's in concrete, pieces of rebar sticking up, and then vines growing all over it, so that basically you don't see the rebar structure any longer. What you're showering in are vines, so it's all circling around. And that's the hardscape. Up here, what the extent of the hardscape is that these are square concrete planters here, all the way around here, and wherever there's not enough depth of soil to get something to grow in of any size. And moving on to irrigation plan. Got a lot of drip going on here and low flow rotators. And I have that bubbler schedule. My irrigation specialist forgot to add that, but here it is. Add those on. In many cases, we're doing soaker hoses too, subterranean soakers, because especially in here, in these cracks, that will all be subterranean. And in some areas where it's pretty narrow, we'll also be doing that. And up on the roof garden. So there won't be any obvious spray going on up there. It'll be all under the ground. These are irrigation details. And then on to the planting. We have this existing large tree on site that we intend to keep. It's a large Monterey cypress, I believe, cypress tree. And then other specimens, the only other really big specimens would be a Canariensis palm in the front, the Phoenix Canariensis, right at the entry gate. And in the back, a Senegal date palm back in here, which is a multi-trunked palm. I've really packed in here a lot of Kentia palms, things that are very lush to give privacy to the neighbor in the back. This is very, very thickly planted along this property line. And along this property line, I have a lot of vines and things that will be climbing up the walls here on this side, since we have the 2 stories, and also some single king palms, which will mitigate the height there on both sides. This again is planted in Diamondia, as I mentioned before, and then we have various flowering trees here. This is Cassia leptophylla, Behinias, and many smaller palms will be also in here. Then up on our upper decks, everything's just kept to the planters. Now this one is the garage deck, and here is the little 6x6 deck. So the plantings here are the Eleogeny, Swan River, and some planters along this back wall, and then some phormiums and these other little square modular planters. This is pretty simple planting, kind of modern, nothing too fussy up here. And then the roof is planted in all succulents, aeoniums, light and dark aeoniums, and coral aloes. This very small deck on the roof is just surrounded with really low mondo grass with a couple of kangaroo paws at the entry. So trying to stay as absolutely drought tolerant as I can, even if we want a rather tropical feel. And then for lighting, it's all path lighting going around. This is the fixture that I like. It's subject to change just depending on what the client likes the best, but it would be hopefully an LED fixture, very low wattage. And I have not proposed any for up above on the top decks, just on the ground plane. And that's the presentation.
Yep.
So this information and the basic scope of work and the vicinity map hasn't really changed. I'm just starting to work with we have a mechanical engineer who's going to we're going to have a radiant floor heating and actually a radiant cooling system as well. And he's also going to be doing the plumbing and the roof drainage system. That's one engineer. Another engineer is going to be the structural engineer. The house is going to be built out of steel and concrete, majority of it. We're finding that it just seems to be a better solution down by the beach, and it will last longer. And it's actually, in some ways, a lot easier and faster to build than conventional wood, and you're not using any wood. The site plan, she's gone through that. The only thing she didn't have that was on my drawings, it demonstrates the minimum area for the outdoor living area, outdoor yard area. And there's really not much else to talk about for me on this. The existing site plan, nothing to talk about. My architectural floor plans haven't changed since the last time you saw them. I've just added some notes and started to think about where we're going to put this. Basically, there's going to be a concrete wall here, steel beams here where the second floor is, steel beams, periodically here, concrete deck, next floor, concrete deck. So it's a very simple structure. This is the second story. I imagine those are her notes. I'll show you the position I'm in with that, and I'll be willing to work with you to go up to the 5 feet if that's the case. I'd rather not have to go through some sort of mod hearing to get it up another foot if it creeps into. I don't know if that would be the result of that, because I think in your letter you said if we go up above and we creep into the solar, we'd have to get a modification.
Well, what I'm saying is that you can push back the second level and raise it 5 feet, so it still conforms to the solar. So it doesn't. The first and second story don't have to be in the same plane at the back, but you can push in the deck and allow it to be the 5 feet.
So,
Yeah,
so in other words, you can move this planet back, is that what I understand?
It's this way is the problem. It has to move this
Oh, that way, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So none of the decks, none of the quantities, all of the percentages where it's two-thirds green, 1/3 deck on the roofs has stayed the same. The roof plan has stayed the same. She had told you about what the material is on the flexible roof. So this is the situation right here. So the finished deck is actually 6 inches below finished floor of the second floor. And I'm not sure what the scale is from here to here, but I believe it's 4.5 feet. Anybody have a scale?
Wait a second.
Hey, can anybody still read the scales?
Here's some readers if you want.
Yeah, I got some.
It's 4 feet?
It's 3.5 and it's 4 feet to finish, I think.
So from that bottom line
It's 4.
to where's the scale? I don't know what to use for that. So it's 4 feet from finished deck to the top of the railing at this point. That's the way it is. So if I push this up a foot, but I would be willing to just sort of notch that and bring most of this over when it hits that solar line, drop it to the 4 feet just at the end, and then it still meets the solar. And this,
I said, or just
Well, it's either that or pull it back, but in any case, if you did what you just described,
yeah.
bring it back a foot, and what happens when I look straight down on that planter? Would there be a planter in that little last piece, or would that just be a... Okay.
Yeah, I would do like
Yeah,
a little
step
square
planter.
panel, and then I would pull it back, and then it's it up, maybe another planter up there.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
You could plant a small screen there maybe also.
well, there's going to be material, there's a planter in the top of the wall.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, what's going to be there?
Oh, I have to look back.
What I might suggest is let the architect finish his presentation, and then we can do this during comments.
Okay. So this really hasn't changed. I guess this would be another deck here that is off the master bedroom. I could easily raise that to 5 feet if that's what the board wants. So this is looking towards the house on the top roof. This is the basic sections that you can see coming through the garage, through the house. It's a very simple house as far as the design because there's only one parapet detail that I use here and I use here. There's only one railing detail. All the doors and windows have the exact same detail that I go into. So it's all just simple plaster rounded off into the jambs of the doors and windows. On the inside, I put a wood sill just because I don't like plaster sills on the inside of the house. It just doesn't finish to me. Originally, we were gonna try to make this face here out of wood, but after talking with the structural engineer and some contractors, we have now decided to make a portion this area here, which you see from the front, the doors, and this is the ceiling of the room below. The doors and windows come right up to this. Every door and window is the same height as the ceiling. And so we've now are exploring making this out of concrete and then just facing this with the boards like we're doing on the side. But we would color them to look like the darker wood. And then we'd have the darker wood concrete and lighter wood concrete, which I can go back and show you on the exteriors. And then you would have the same shape again. And then another reason why we went to that is we do have some of these sort of eyebrow awnings, so to speak, over to some of the doors and windows, which we can make out of one piece put in place concrete. And then we believe that this is going to hold up a lot more than anything that we can bolt or steel or anything like that. So this would be one solid pour, and we would reinforce it with rebar, obviously, but that's the direction we're going. And if you tell us that there's some reason why you don't like that idea, then that's most likely the direction we're going to be going. Roof bead detail. Then we go into door and window schedules. So every door and window in the house is on here, all dimensioned. And as you can see, some of the doors and windows have stained glass in them. All the second-story windows that face a neighbor have been labeled with the rice glass. That will just sort of lets light through, but it's opaque. You cannot see through it. This is the color board. So we have this sort of dark brownish red thing. The plaster is going to be sort of an off-white, sort of on a bonish color. That will be an integral color in the last coat. There will be some ups and downs and ins and outs on that. It's not going to be one solid color. The concrete is going to have, it's just going to be left raw concrete with the boards embossed in it. We will have a little bit of copper exposed for flashing and stuff, and that will be just an aged copper. All the hardware on the house will be a aged bronze. And let's go one more page. The exterior lighting. We're going to downplay the exterior lighting. We're going to use these Vega lights. They're relatively small, and we're going to put them down low on the walls, so that basically we're just lighting up the floor area of the areas where you're going in and out of the house. The only place we're going to have on this covered porch outside, we're going to have recessed lights up in there to light up that covered area off the cabana. And she has the other light, the pathway lighting on her drawing. And is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Anything else? Before we go to questions from the board, I'll open public comment. Seeing none, slips, close the public comment, bring it back to the board for questions, and let's start at that end of the table. Put you on the spot, Jamie.
Yeah.
Could you still there? Do you want to open to the landscape plan?
Let's see what you don't need to do anything.
Okay.
It's on. Just talk.
Thank you. I had a vacation, so a little rusty. So with the bubblers, Is that like in lieu of it's working as kind of a drip, except it's a more solid type, it's point-on-point irrigation?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you have a little more control over it, which is nice. And then, did you say that the driveway, is it pebbles in between the, I always refer to
No,
it as
diamondia.
diamondia. Okay. That'll be nice. With some of the plant material that requires a little bit more water, is that in more shadier areas, so you're feeling like it's going to balance out?
Yes, with the palms that we'd be bringing in, probably pretty good sized, so they're already going to be casting quite a lot of shade, especially the sides are going to be very shady. Both
Right.
side yards are, and the back hill as well, because we've got the big canopy tree. So
Right.
that should balance out
pretty.
everything pretty well.
Pretty much canopy, because, yeah, I was looking at some of the ground covers, and it looks like even the ones that might be a little bit more water, I think it's not going to be that much water, because you have a lot of canopy.
That was the idea, was just, put it in shade, and then you can cut the water usage way back.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
Lisa, questions?
Yes. The concrete planters that are on the second story roof, are those going to be cast in place?
Haven't decided about that yet. They could be cast, or they could be purchased.
Because I'm concerned about the weight of those because there are so many.
There's no issue with the
no
weight.
issue. Okay. And then they were going to be bubbled.
Yes,
Is that right?
or dripped. They'd be dripped or bubbled, depending on what. One of them is going to hold a citrus tree, which I think a bubbler would be a better idea there, because they need a little more water.
Okay.
Everything else should be on drip.
And then the that planter wall, the mural
Yes.
system. Do you have any more info on that?
Yeah, I
Sounds
do,
so
and
interesting to
I
me.
didn't bring it this time, but it's a really great system. I don't know if there's a Frenchman that developed it, and he's really quite popular with this type. These are two of his designs actually that I brought, and it's interesting. It looks like this black cubes, and they all snap together, and they have all the little holders for all the drip system. So you just run the drip right up the center of them, and they hold, there's bags that then fit into that, and they hold the plant life in the soil in these kind of black felty bags. It's interesting. Really,
I know. I'm curious to see
Yeah.
a little bit more about that. And will there be enough sun?
Well, I would put mostly shady plants in there. That's going to be pretty shady in there.
All right. Well, the landscape plan looks fantastic, and as does the hardscape. And I think you've found a lot of really good solutions.
Thank you.
My only question is looking at the total number of plant species and the 80% water-wise.
Well, that Diamondia area really handles quite a lot of it, of the area. And a lot of the plants are, in my opinion, and I would defend them, as being water-wise, even though Wookles doesn't necessarily categorize them as low or very low. I have written already a letter to some of my colleagues on other boards about this, that, so far what's being used is one entity to determine what's low and very low plant water use. I disagree with a lot of it. Like, for instance, the Senegal date palm in the corner, that's an African palm. It doesn't require a lot of water, and it's on Wookles it's listed as a moderate water use, and so it's something that I can certainly defend with other sources besides Wookles.
I can agree with some of that, but hibiscus I can't agree with just because it's a white fly.
You haven't heard of worm castings for that.
Really?
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
not an issue if you put worm castings all around it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bernie, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have a couple of questions. First of all, could we get to, I guess it'll be page A31. I'm trying to really understand how many decks, where they are, and how the bridge is connecting, where is the bridge?
Do you want me to explain it to you? Or want
Yeah, I
or
want
them
you to explain it to me.
This is the garage right here.
So you come off the shoreline, you turn left, and you enter the garage to the left?
So the garage from Shoreline will be screened by plants, just like it is now. You won't be able to see it as you walk by or drive by. You come into a thin driveway and you hang a left and then a right into the garage.
Maybe you should show
Okay,
the
so
plan
it's the garage door faces shoreline.
Right.
And there's a deck on top of the garage.
Correct.
The whole top of the garage?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I need to understand.
Let me just go to the floor plan and then I can show it.
And then where's the deck, where's the bridge?
here. Here it is.
So this is Shoreline. Shoreline
Shoreline's
is
over
70
here.
feet from here, it's 30
Right.
feet from here, 40 feet from there. Yes, about 20. So this is the bridge here. There's a big tree here. This is the
got turned off.
the parquet is the decking. Everything else around it on the deck is planning.
So it's
then
about
this is-
2/3 of the garage, the double garage is a deck.
No, actually, just
No?
the opposite of that. About 2/3 of all the decks combined are green, and about 1/3 of the decks are decks. One sort of the roofs are decks, the flat portions of the roofs are decks. Because this is all planter, this is planter, and planter all the way around. Planter here, planter here, planter here, planter here, 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 under the staircase, on top of this wall. So there's quite a bit more landscaping than decks.
Okay, so keep going. I'm with you.
So the garage, you come in this way.
Oh, this way. Here's
That's right.
shoreline.
Shoreline is down there.
Yeah.
And there's
Oh,
quite a
it
bit
curves. Oh, it curves in.
So you don't see the drive.
Okay.
So you don't see the garage
Okay.
from the street.
Then we're in the garage,
Correct.
and then how do we get to the bridge?
You don't. You have to be invited over. So you come out the back door and you go under the front door. You have to go up these stairs, out onto the deck, and across. The only way to get to this deck. So you have to be inside the house to be able to go to the deck or come through the house.
So we're elevated.
Yep.
We're way up high on
Well,
this deck
You're
now.
about
As high as the garage.
not
Yeah.
as high as the garage with a roof on, pitch roof, but you'd be standing about 10 feet in the air.
Okay. Then I think I just had one other question, but, oh, so this one on page A31, so now what's going on here?
That's on the upper level. These steps here, you come out, there's steps along the outside of that deck. And then you-
There's an exterior stairway.
Correct, yeah. Let's go yeah. So this exterior staircase goes from the roof deck over the first floor to a small roof deck on the upper floor, and that would be the only place really that they would get an ocean view from. And it's 16 by 16 in width and size. And the rest of this roof is all green.
Actually, the actual usable piece of the deck is 8 feet by 8 feet, right? I'm reading it.
You're reading, got the wrong scale.
Is this quarter inch
This
scale?
is quarter.
Yeah, so it's 8 feet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
8 feet by 8 feet.
You're right. I'm
The
off.
actual
8 feet by 8 feet.
usable piece of the deck.
Thank you.
And,
Okay? Jim, questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to commend on the hardscape and the landscaping. I think one of the things that we were concerned about was getting a lot of shadow on the building, from the palm trees. And I think that you've accomplished that. Also, I like the way that you screen the garage and the way you've screened the decks. And they're far enough away from the property lines, since in the front and the sides, that I don't think it'd be a problem.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
I have no questions, thank you.
I have several questions, but they should be all small. With regards to the concrete finishes, you've now kind of indicated that a lot of the verticals that you originally were thought about being wood is now going to go to concrete, although you are going to put some of the details as on sheet 7A.5, if that's over the garage, you're going to do concrete and put wood on top of it?
No, actually, what I'm hoping to do, well, that was my first intention.
Yeah.
I was going to do it out of concrete and then sort of bolt
Wood, right here, right?
this part.
Oh, that
so
part.
anywhere there's white, that's plaster.
Right.
So we're talking about this area, and if this strip here and that strip there is the only parts that I'm considering. Instead of actually putting wood, I was going to do and emboss that with, like I'm doing with this. But instead of leaving it that, I was going to stain that
Okay,
to match
so that's what I'm
wood.
saying.
So
So
that I don't have to deal
basically,
with
you're going to use a 1x wood pattern
right.
in the concrete and then stain it.
Correct.
Okay, because one of the things, as you recall, many years ago, Ian Pei, there's this great film about him taking the contractor to look at how they were going to finish the vertical concrete. Vertical concrete is really hard to get a good finish without having to sack it and paint it and all that.
Well, it would be part
So this-
of the.
so that's a good
that'd be
way to-
part of the concrete mix.
So
I
that'll-
wouldn't try to stain it after the fact.
So that's a good way to deal with
Let's-
imperfections of pouring concrete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, worst cases, we can always cover it with wood.
Okay. The question I had on the width of the bridge, last time we looked at this, there was, that back and forth from the building code standpoint. Have we got that resolved now?
Well, kind of. She's kind of shaking her head. We were at 4. We wanted to do 4. The planning department thought we needed to have 8 because there was something about attaching two
Yeah,
structures.
the two structures.
And then I sort of compromised and went to 6. And the last time I hear, she said, well, we might be able to work that out. But it hasn't really been worked out completely.
So what do these drawings show now?
Right now, I still have them at 6,
You have them at 6, not
Yeah.
8. Okay.
not 8.
Yeah.
I'd really prefer to keep them because what that does is, first, it takes away from it being a bridge.
Right.
It starts to look like a freeway. And the second is, there's plants and trees underneath it that we want light to hit.
Okay.
So, but we're willing to do this if the planning department is.
Mr. Chair, that brings up a good point that I wanted to make. That issue has not yet been resolved. It'll be resolved when they submit for building department. There's a little, it needs to be in
And
the
that
final
may-
call by the zoning. However, I would want the board to maybe make a comment that if the zoning requires it to be 8 feet, maybe make a caption in the motion whether or not that would still be supportable by the board or not.
Okay. So, and I made a note to myself for that exact reason. And then going to landscape, just real briefly, on the material you're going to use in the front driveway.
Yes.
I'm not really familiar with it. Unlike a lot of other grasses, does it get yellow at any point during its yearly
No,
growth?
no.
And then how do you get it to start growing right away? I mean, what happens there? Is it irrigated?
It's
under that?
irrigated,
Oh, it's
sure.
irrigated.
Yeah,
under
yeah, it's irrigated, and it's irrigated with pop-ups, and this particular system is very friendly to that. So you can do your little pop-up rotators right underneath the whole thing,
And at
they
some point, you
disappear
can
completely.
schedule those off. You don't have to water it all the time.
No, Diamondia. Well, Diamondia, it's pretty
Low
much
water.
It's real low water. Yes.
It's
first
not a
year.
grass. It's
Yeah, the first
more of a
year.
ground cover.
It's a ground cover.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
And then I want to go back to the light fixtures. Are they going to be at the front of the garage? Typically, in a lot of homes, they'll put an actual fixture, an up and down or up and out. What are you doing there? Anything?
I'm doing the same thing where I'm just using those half moon Bega lights. They're about this big, and we're just going to put them low and just have
So
them.
on the elevation, what's,
I actually didn't
So
put
would
them
they-
on it. They'd be down here.
oh, they're going to be down low. Okay. Okay. And then finally, just to
But there will be.
readdress.
She has some landscaping lights.
Yeah, no,
in that
I
area.
saw
Okay.
those. I was just make sure I understood about the garage. Then going back to, let's see, I guess maybe the landscape plan, just to recover some ground I think we've already covered in our last several sessions. But I want to make sure that everybody, before we make a motion, everybody clearly understands. I think this is
Well, that's the
good.
irrigation plan.
Is it- That's fine, it's got the main elements on. We had inquiries from some neighbors, as you recall. So we had one neighbor here that was concerned about privacy, et cetera. That's why we looked at this 5-foot planter that's up on the roof. We know there's a fence here. I just want to make sure we understand, how big will these plantings get? How high, more or less?
The king palms,
They'll get really big.
yeah, they get very
But what
tall.
about
Those
the-
are Kentias, and they also get big. They're very full too. They're very,
And so how high?
oh, they can get up to
15, 20 feet.
30, well more than that, 30, 35 feet. I think.
So are they
They're very
categorized as
slow.
a hedge or a tree?
Tree.
As a tree, okay. And then on the back here, same thing?
Yeah, same thing. It's very, very densely planted with those types of palms, and then there are plants on the ground plane. There are many, many shrubs that I didn't do a hedge, a straight
Right,
hedge.
right.
I did masses of shrubs, tall shrubs.
Okay, yeah, because we did have some comments by this neighbor. And then over here on this, regard this neighbor, I think we made comments earlier that we wanted to have wall broken up, and it sounds like that's what you're doing in terms of planting.
Yes.
And then one final landscape question. On this wall over here, where you have the living wall, the top piece, and I've seen the living walls, basically the way they grow kind of straight out and then they drape. Is there anything on that top level that'll go up higher so that the neighbor has to deal with trimming or anything?
Oh, no.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's the question. So, and then do you have your Storm 2 materials? Okay, so that's it. All right, let's go to comments and go back to...
Just one more
Oh,
question.
yes, ma'am.
What is the garage door made out of?
It will be made out of wide plank lumber. It will just be a typical roll-up, and you can get a frame made out of a lightweight metal, and then you apply what we'll get to be, hopefully 18 to 20-inch wide planks that will be finished with the teak oil, and those will roll up.
So it basically matches your window trim and door trim.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just got this today. I have studio engineers is going to be the structural engineer and also the civil engineer. And he has his basic layout as how he's going to deal with the drainage. Keep in mind that another benefit of these rooftop gardens is that it soaks up close to 90% reduces the runoff. So anything that does get away from these roofs will be down a drain and into a collector, and we're going to be using a right in here somewhere has a collection right there. What does that say?
Downspout shall be set into a 4-inch PVC drain and directed into the rain exchange water collection locations as shown.
So what that does is it will collect any water. If it ever gets to a substantial amount, it will just reuse it for landscaping. We have a permeable driveway that water's going to be able to drop down. So I'm really comfortable with we're going to have zero runoff on this property. And again, a lot of it has to do with, you have a traditional roof that has any sort of roof on it. That just sheds, doesn't pick up anything. So
you're going for lead platinum.
I couldn't be anything the opposite, but I'll
All right.
take it if it makes sense.
Okay. Comments? Jimmy?
Well, I think that the landscape and the design of the house work really well together, and I think that it'll be a very nice project.
Lisa?
I like what you've done, and no further comments at this time. I think it's great.
Board members, maybe just make a quick comment. In your comments, again, I want you, if you refer back to my memo, that you consider and include into the motion specific landscaping that you think is to be part of the conditions of approval for maintenance of permanent landscaping. Again, we don't want to get into the whole plan should be conditioned to approval, but trees or hedges or something of that line.
Because we've already approved the plans, right?
But again, we approved it
We've given a design approval.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, any further comments?
No?
Bernie?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I probably will be the only one that will not be supporting this project, so I would like to get my comments out there just so people can know where I'm coming from, representing the neighborhood, which is, I can't make the findings that this design with steel and with all these roof decks and a bridge and concrete design, it just doesn't fit into the guidelines, and I just am surprised that the board finds that it does, but that's the way it's going to go. So what I would like to suggest is that the colors be softened. I think the landscaping is appropriate and does fit the neighborhood, but the colors and the materials don't. So if this is going to be approved and move forward as it is, then I would like to suggest softening, toning it down, trying to look at the neighborhood and not be the one house that is going to stand out like a Malibu house, but it's going to fit in to the neighborhood context. Thank you.
Yeah. Jim?
Well, I pretty much had given my comments previously. I think it's a beautiful project. I think with the landscaping and the shadowing from Shoreline Drive, there's very little plaster that you see. You have the landscape driveway, and so I think that you've taken care of our concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Brian?
I'm sort of in Bernie's camp. The design itself is great. I think your design is wonderful, and we've already approved it. So, but the thing that kind of concerns me, it does go in the face of our design guidelines. I feel uncomfortable with the third-story deck. I feel that should not have been approved. I also feel that the back deck in the rear of the yard should not have been approved either, but it was approved, so I will, honor that. And I think the landscaping is fantastic, and I think you're addressing a lot of the issues. But the thing that concerns me is it's not a home that's with the neighborhood. It's a statement of itself. That's it's demanding. It's a statement. It's a design statement to itself that doesn't really blend in with the neighborhood. But the neighborhood isn't what you'd call an outstanding design neighborhood in the first place. But so as far as the guideline requirements, I don't think it really we represent that. But on the other hand, it's a fun house to live in. I see myself in the house, and it would be a really neat living experience. So I'm kind of torn with it. But like I said, we've already approved the design, so I'll honor that. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Thank you. Jim? Anything? No? I'd like to make a few comments. One is I understand completely, I appreciate my two colleagues that are concerned about how this house fits in with the neighborhood. I think that given our history of reviewing this project, and I think this is the third or fourth time we've seen it, as I recall.
Yes.
You've come a long way from where you first started. I think the whole bridge issue was started out kind of in I thought, a much more difficult position. I think it's now within reason. I think it started out with a lot more deck surface than you currently have, so I think that's addressed the issue. I know that we talked at length about that third-story deck on the roof, and you addressed the comments that were made at the previous meetings about how big or whether that deck should be there or not. I think certainly you've addressed the deck on the second floor, which I'll need to talk about a little bit more in a second. And you took out staircases. You had an exterior stairs to the garage decks, which you took away. You changed the configuration of the decks. You added planters based on our comments. So I think you've addressed a lot of our comments. I think one of the difficulties we have as a board is if there's a lot of time between the time we see this, we tend to forget what we talked about. So, in some instances, that's a challenge we have as a board. In terms of the color, if we go back to the color board, I'm not sure that I have a real difficult problem. The current house that's there now is, as I recall, kind of a white stucco with some wood windows, and it's a flat roof, two-story house that's there now. You're proposing a two-story stucco, basically where the stucco exists, white. The concrete will be natural concrete. The wood windows, the doors, the garage are all a dark stained teak color, as I understand. We did talk at length about that, maybe the second meeting. So it's a wood finish. Copper is natural. So a lot of the materials you're proposing, with the exception maybe of the stucco, are all natural finishes. You're not using any bright colors. There's no pinks, grays, blues, whatever. And I think my recollection is you kind of started some of that in the beginning.
At the beginning, there
was some bright colors.
There was a little bit.
blue
Yeah,
wall
so
or
those,
something.
yeah, there was a blue wall, as I recall. So all of that has gone away.
But didn't
So-
you take away the wood now?
No.
No.
There's still going to be some wood.
And,
okay.
and he is where even where he may not be using wood, he's going to stain the concrete so it looks like wood. So it'll still have that dark color. The other important thing, I think, that sometimes we have a collective problem visualizing is that you really have to take in context the architecture with the landscape architecture. And as everybody pointed out, the landscape plan and what's being proposed is really a huge asset to the final project. So sometimes when we look at a piece of architecture, we may have a difficulty time of putting the landscape and the architecture together as one statement, one palette of architectural finish. And I think
Mr. Chair, in all due respect, I completely understand what
you
you're
see what
saying.
I'm, you see what I'm
Yeah,
getting
we
at?
don't
But
need
I
to
also
take-
want to say
yeah.
that
Yeah.
this particular owner, if he was to sell the house, and what's to stop the next owner of the house to rip out that plant
Okay.
because they're into cactuses or something?
Okay, so now that's why I'm working towards the point that staff has asked us to talk about in terms of landscaping. So I'm kind of getting there. So having said all of that, then I think that as we make a motion, I want to go back to the landscape plan. I think in the motion we have to address a couple of things.
So I think the planting plan.
Yeah, that's is that I think in the motion, if we're to make a motion, then I think that we need to be sure that we make a statement about the kind of planting that goes in here, and that would have to be forever, so to speak, unless the applicant comes back and, or the owner, whoever may own the house in the future, comes back and says, I want to change the planting, would have to be reviewed by this board. So in our motion, based on staff's coaching, is that we should address that area. We probably should address this corner, given the concern about that neighbor. We should probably address the planting on this side, given the concern about that neighbor. And we may want to make sure that we are clear on the planting in the front, because after all, remember, we made a finding early on that we accepted the configuration of the driveway as not being seen from Shoreline Drive. So from a landscaping, in terms of the motion we may want to make certain specific comments about those landscape areas.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes.
question. How does the city enforce such a thing if a new owner comes in and decides to re-landscape? And let's say one weekend he brings a crew in and completely changes it. How are you going to enforce it?
Well, most enforcement is neighbor-driven. So
Okay.
if a neighbor is familiar with this project and understands that there was conditions of approval to enhance their privacy and screening, they will most likely be the first to report it to us. In that case, we would come back and then review the landscape plan, the approved plans, and the conditions of approval, and say, that it has to comply with these conditions of approval. In the other case, if they just were coming in, wanted to make some changes, we'd bring it before the board and bring out the archive plans and say this is how this project got approved, and it'd be up to the board to make a determination at that time.
Okay. Madam Chair, just to be clear, I'm not a real estate person, but as I understand it, if this applicant was to sell this to another property owner, the conditions we apply actually reside in the documents that given to a new owner. Is that correct?
No, that would be something,
How does that work?
that would be more along like if it was if this was a planning commission case and had a specific land use. It's sort of unusual when we have a single-family design board condition of approval. At this point, what we would do is we would document it in our Tidemark Advantage system, and I've already done that, saying that this project has very specific conditions of approval, and that flags to staff that they need to look at the archives.
So, but in a real estate transaction, this owner sells to another owner. Does that
Yeah.
show up anywhere?
It may in the ZIR, actually. It probably would in the ZIR. The ZIR identifies if there's any conditions. I might need to research that a little bit, but usually the ZIRs will identify if there's specific conditions of approval. It'll list it in the zoning information
'Cause
report.
I think that gets to Brian's point. about
Bernie's
future owners.
a realtor.
Right, yeah, I think it's all going to get lost in the shuffle, really. And I also think that this subject to the second-story deck, that's going to be, that could come back here and it could go straight to consent, and so much for that, too.
Again, the consent, whether it's consent or full board, it's still the board review. The fact is, and why I've stated in the memo, is that we will put it on the plans that it's a condition of approval. So when we review the prior or future application, we will pull that archive set and review the archive approved set that specifies exactly which things are conditions of approval. That, again, is getting to why I'm asking you why Mr. Sweeney has been specifying that as the board, you should specifically include in your motion the items for the landscaping to be conditioned of approved. We don't want an entire landscape plan to say it's a condition of approval. We want items X, Y, and Z to be the conditions of approval.
And then I think the final item of concern is you're sharing with us is the planter up on the second floor. Can we go back to that? Where did you have that little section sketch? That would keep that on.
The sections.
Now, where it was kind of marked in red.
Oh, that's on the elevation. Oh, I think it's right there.
Yeah, right there, okay. So the issue at hand is if the motion is made in such a way that we want to give this approval with certain conditions, then as I understand it, we kind of have to make a statement about whether or not we could accept, contrary to our previous meeting, accept this as a 4-foot wall instead of a 5-foot wall, or accept it as a 5-foot wall up to the point where it matches the solar angle and then drops down to 4 feet, and whether or not we as a board could accept that as a modified design of this planter, and then probably at minimum have the applicant come back to consent with a final design configuration, or back to the full board, I guess, depending on how we make the motion.
Can I make one comment on that?
Sure.
Too? If you go back to the site plan, the area that we're talking about, right here.
Right here.
So this deck is here.
Right, it's right there.
This wall is here. Okay, so they're looking down, and there's a garage in this corner. So the area they're trying to protect is the area over there. So if there was a slight piece near the end, you're not getting into it,
There's two parcels here. This is really the concern.
That's the other parcel. The neighbor that communicated to us.
You guys,
So,
just tell me what you want me to do.
so now, all I'm trying to do is bring to the attention of the board, as we make this motion, we need to probably address in the motion that planter. So either accept it as 4 feet or some other configuration as demonstrated on that little sketch. So those are my comments. Having made my comments, the chair would entertain a motion. We can either approve final design, subject to several details needing to be finished. That either could go back to consent, or it can come back to the full board. I think that's how the motion can be made. So the chair would entertain a motion. Anyone willing to?
I'll make
tackle
the
it?
motion.
Okay.
For final approval, to come back on consent with a detail for the back deck area.
Okay.
How are you going to handle the landscaping on?
The chair would suggest you could make some wording that basically says, we approve this plan on the condition that the planning proposed is on sheet L 4.0 remains as a condition in terms of total height and configuration per these plans, based on that area, this area, and that area. our sake.
Sorry. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Board members, that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want you to approve the entire L4 as a condition of approval.
No, I'm just saying these specific areas.
Okay, so maybe
about,
what I would recommend is actually circle a specific tree or
Can we,
something.
can we do this on this set of
Yes.
drawings? Do you have a red pencil or
Yeah.
some color?
You want it to be very clear.
Okay. So I'll let the maker of the motion circle whatever he wants to circle.
Okay, we're talking about
I'll circle it. This one, that one.
the northeast corner. And the, you want to do it here where we have the,
You want to take
Living wall.
Take that.
this area here?
And that area there. Where's that? Where'd it go?
That area,
Where the concrete was.
Here to there.
yeah. Okay,
All right. And so, so you're in agreement with the tier 2, the concept of tier 2 stormwater? Is okay?
yeah, I think it's great.
Okay, and that you're, and then I guess the one other comment we'll need to know about is the width of the bridge. Are we comfortable with the width of the bridge either being 8 feet or 6 feet?
I'm comfortable with 6. I think 8 would be, out of scale.
But if the building department, and this is the question to staff, if the building department says it has to be 8, do they have to come back and?
Well, that's
show
why
us,
I
or how does
wanted
that
you to
work?
be very specific. At this point, they're proposing 6. If you are comfortable with 6, I'd say that's fine, but maybe make a separate statement that is 8 acceptable, or do you want it to return to the board if 8 is, you find that
Okay.
8 is not acceptable?
So do you see what she's saying? In other words, if 6 is okay with all of us, but if they have to go to 8, then do you want it to come back to the full board?
Wouldn't there have to be somebody that would make findings that 8 is compatible?
That's a building code issue. The building code currently says if you have an auxiliary building was it more than 10 feet
All right,
away?
I don't care, I'm just asking. It just doesn't seem like it fits.
So, but we're trying to make the motion so if they go to 8 feet, they have to come back and show us.
Either you're acceptable with 8 feet, or you want it to
So
come
you're
back
not.
with 8 feet.
So right now, your motion is 6 feet is where you'd like it to be.
6 feet is where I think where it should be.
But if they have, for building purposes, if they have to go to 8 feet, does it need to come back to this board?
I don't see why it'd have to come back.
Okay. Would it have to go anywhere?
That's what the motion should specify. I mean, the alternative could be, the extreme case would be 6 feet is acceptable, but if they have, they have to go to 7 or 8 feet, then maybe the bridge should be eliminated, or maybe the bridge is okay at 8 feet, or be very specific to that regard. You're saying, it
6
sounds
or
like
8.
you're saying 6 is
No.
good, 8
6
is
is
no.
preferable, but 8 is okay. Is that your motion?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct, yeah.
So the motion would be 6 is preferable, but 8 feet is
Yeah.
okay.
You don't really see
Without
the
having to
bridge.
come back to
from, you don't, the only place you see the bridge is inside.
From here.
So it's,
I know, but you don't see it, but it does, set a precedent, and somebody else is going to be able to use that the next time. So it's important to look at it. I mean, you can't just let it go because you don't know what it's going to look like. I'm sorry, but I just think it's out
Okay,
of
we have a
hand.
motion in making.
Okay.
Let's save
We
any
can-
other comments
We
until
either vote the
end.
motion down and redo a new motion, or we can continue crafting. So is that your motion?
that's my
Do
motion.
we need to reread the motion, Jamie?
Not reread it, but if I'd like to add a little something about the landscape, if it's helpful.
Okay, do we have a, let's do this.
We're talking about
We had
the
we had a
bridge.
first, you're making the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, go to second. Now we have discussion. So would you like to
I think
entertain an addendum?
with regard to the neighbors' viewports towards those specific areas that we're trying to maintain, that we should also include not only the height, because be a little more specific about the health of the plants too, that they are well taken care of, so that we're assured that it's going to grow unscreened.
Okay. So in other words, you want to, in the motion, you're suggesting to the maker of the motion that includes
Well,
a healthy plant?
Yeah,
High maintenance.
yeah.
Okay, so is that acceptable? to the
That's
maker of the motion?
acceptable.
Okay. So,
We're talking about the 3 areas that you can look at.
so that's the motion on the floor. We're giving it final approval, subject, I'm just repeating, I think, what the motion is. We're giving it final approval, subject to coming back to consent for details and additional finish notes as described in the meeting. That we're asking that a condition of approval is that we provide, that the owner of the property provide continuous healthy plants as depicted on sheet L40, in these areas circled in red. That we entertain the applicant to come back to consent calendar with further details on the planter on the second floor to accommodate the solar angle requirement.
Correct.
What else am I forgetting? And that we are agreeable that the bridge can be either 6 feet or 8 feet, but we would prefer, as a board, 6 feet.
Okay.
I think that's what the motion is on the table. So, everybody in agreement? Okay, so there's a motion. Now remember, we vote this motion down, we can always go to a second motion. But right now, that's the motion on the floor. So hearing further no discussion,
Mr. Chair and board members, one final statement. I just want to be specific again for the landscaping. Those circled areas, maybe we should suggest when it returns to consent for final details, that put it in the applicant's hands to specify like what specific tree or hedge plant.
and I would suggest that when you come back with your documents, you take these red circles and somehow graphically and put it on the drawing. So that's the motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, the chair calls for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Any abstentions? Motion is carried.
I didn't vote yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Fred.
Sorry,
I'll support it.
Okay, so okay. So we have in favor?
Yeah.
Right, and we have one against and no abstentions, so carried. You now go to consent calendar.
Okay, and how do I get on that? Do I automatically go in 2 weeks, or do I have to come in?
I think you just called
Provide
that.
the revised details and resubmit for consent.
Within a week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Now, Fred,
I can go on the red lines on
he
it.
had shown landscaping in front of the shadows and colors.
You can come in and study it later.
Do you want this little?
Sure. Okay.
Here you go. Denise. Oh, boy.
All you have to do is...
The drawing does look standard, but if he colored it, the color, and showed planting in front with shadows. Completely.
We'll soon find
The
out.
drawing itself looks, stark.
Have you driven by that house on Redcliffe?
So you're right. The drawing looks stark. You gotta add,
Okay. So now we are at 2082 Las Canoas Road. This is the final review, and final approval is requested. Compliance with Tier 3 stormwater management program is required prior to granting final approval. Project design approval was granted on February 11th, 2013. And we'll have the Vice Chair read the last commentary.
Madam Chair, on 2011, the following motion was made. Project design approval with finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met as stated in subsection 22.69.
You're down here.
Oops. Only works if you have it on. Let's see, where was I? In subsection 22.69.50 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code, and continue to full board in 2 weeks. 1, consider a staining element on the proposed 12-inch board pattern of a portion of the concrete retaining wall. 2, consider an alternate design of the stone planters at the bottom of the 12-foot wall. 3, provide an alternate for higher tree or planting elements, particularly for the highest point of the 12-foot retaining wall. 4, provide additional railing details, including colors and materials. Provide a color and material board and colors and materials schedule on the plans. Action was taken on a 5-1 vote. Sweeney, Bernstein, motion, and second.
And your presentation, please. Please introduce yourself.
Ron Patelski, I'm the owner.
Okay.
Jim McClintock, I'm the architect.
Wonderful. Welcome.
We have incorporated a proposed staining to the concrete that will match the existing field stone that's out there that we're going to be applying to the base of the wall and also for the planters. The landscape architect revised the shape of the planters. She reduced the number of them and made it a little more sinuous along the base of the wall, so it's not this row of half circles that was there before. There are new oak trees proposed, 2 new oak trees proposed in front of the wall here and here as additional higher screening elements of the wall. And then the railing, we are proposing an iron rail that would be with this Santa Barbara black and or a very dark green. I have some samples of paint colors that we are considering.
Okay, thank you. Let's open up to the board for, well, let's see, first of all, we didn't have any public comment on this project. I'll open up public comment. I don't see anyone stepping forward, so we'll close public comment. And now it's questions to the board.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just one quick question. Size of the oak trees? The initial planting? Do you have a feel for what they did there?
She doesn't list the size.
I would just suggest to my colleagues on the board whether or not we should suggest an initial planting size. And then just one final question on the railing, on the intermediates. Are those just a similar size picket, or are they going to be a little larger picket?
I think they'll probably be a similar size.
Similar
My
size
guess is the building department will probably require a minimum 4-inch opening, so we'll probably end up
Okay.
designing some sort of a screen at that point to satisfy that. And I guess, would we be able to come back with consent for that kind of a thing, or is that something that
I would
you want to
assume.
decide?
I would assume, depending how we make the motion. I'm just asking. That's all the question.
Yeah, Jim. On your last drawing, you had some round planters
Correct.
that you're going to make it varied height. That's wrapping around. So now it's a continuous sandstone planter, right?
I guess that's what she's done. Yeah,
okay.
This is not a true orthogonal projection of it. I think she's trying to show that this is has a sinuous top.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Jamie.
I was trying to see, so are these olives, because the symbol is they're very similar, the olive
Yes.
symbol and the oak symbol?
All along the drive are the olives.
Olive, okay. And then, did this get passed by the fire department and Mark?
No, we've not gone to fire yet.
Okay. So that's something, because I know that the coyote bush, they don't mind. The one thing I'm wondering is just the elevation, the climb of,
Fire ladder.
Yep. So that's a consideration on your design.
Okay. Thank you.
Lisa, any comments? Questions?
Yeah, just the undulating wall, will it actually meet the wall behind it?
Yeah, she's got it interfacing right at the corner, so it comes off the eastern corner, undulates, and then returns.
Okay, so it only returns at the beginning and the end?
Correct.
Okay.
She's got it
Good.
sinuating, alternating back and forth.
Right. Yeah.
So it'd
That
be
makes-
continuous. It's continuous
Okay,
as opposed
that
to the other
makes-
ones, which are individual.
A lot more sense.
Any other questions? Comments?
Madam Chair, I would move for, I have a question to staff. Have you done Storm 3?
Yes, we have. That's on the front.
That's on the
of
page-
sheet.
on the front
I
sheet,
reviewed that with
okay.
Autumn Malonka, and I
And then a question to staff. If we move for final approval, can we do that without them having gone to fire department?
Yeah, the routing to fire department will be a
Okay.
internal review as part of the building permit.
All right. So, Madam Chair, I would move for approval as presented. The only thing I might add to the motion, but I'm waiting for my colleagues who are landscape architects, do we want to give them a minimum size for the oak tree planting?
Yeah, I hadn't really mentioned anything yet in the commentary, and I would recommend a size of a minimum of 24-inch box on those.
Okay. So I would make that.
With the other?
I would make that part of my motion. That's my motion.
I second.
For the oaks,
For the
two
two
oaks
oaks.
that they're adding.
So somebody's got a second.
I
Okay.
second.
Okay, Bernie
And then
seconds.
we can have discussion.
Okay. Any discussion? No? Then I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. All right. And next we have 3232 Campanile Drive. This is project design approval is requested. The project requires compliance with Tier 3 Stormwater Management Program. Prior to granting final approval, the project was last reviewed on December 17th, 2012. And we'll wait for some notes.
So Madam Chair, you want me to read this? On December 17th, the following motion was made with the following items. Continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer for return to the full board with comments. 1, the board appreciates the style and quality of the architecture. 2, study possibilities for reduction of the proposed FAR. 3, provide roof downspout details to handle rainoff and drainage. 4, provide further colored glass treatment details with regard to heating and cooling the rooms and sun protection. 5, provide a detailed landscape plan including planting species details around the structure. 6, provide site section and grading details. 7, study entry stairway alternatives and provide details. 8, the board finds that the proposed garage modification to be aesthetically appropriate and finds that the proposed modification does not pose consistency issues with the single-family residence design guidelines. However, as stated, the board would still like the applicant to study possible reductions in the total proposed FAR. 9, the board finds that the proposed uncovered parking spaces to be acceptable and will be sufficiently screened from the public street view. Action was taken on a motion by Miller, seconded by James, on a 6-0 vote.
Okay, thank you. And could you introduce yourselves, please?
David Young with Young Construction.
Welcome.
Jeffrey Burkus, Jeffrey Burkus Architects.
Stacy Fawcett, landscape architect.
Nice to meet you all. All right, and your presentation?
Okay. So since the last time we all met, do you want to work on this? Yes, it's not. Okay. We were asked to, first of all, look at the overall square footage, and then actually as a note, and on the garage modification, it was not necessary, because when we went in, maybe you've already heard all that or not? Okay.
They revised the project to reduce the garage to 740 square feet. The area of storage shown within that is not counted towards the garage square footage, so the modification is no longer a part of the project.
So, okay, so right to the floor plans. We did reduce the square footage of the house, and we reduced it by 250 square feet, and then we put the storage into FAR. So the net reduction is 117 square feet, which takes us below the 100% mark, which seemed like that was the idea of the board, was to get below that 100%. Right?
It's still 101%, just because the way the FAR thresholds are. It's numbers input into a calculator or an Excel file. But the point you should make is that you did make that 100 and something square foot reduction.
Okay. Yes. So, all right. And so the floor plans are largely the same. We just took square footage out of the width and the breadth of the house. So we'll focus on the elevations, which show the downspouts and the locations, and then the gutter and gutter bracket details. And then we provided a rendering, and I'm just a little frustrated in the rendering because the colors are all wrong. So the roof is a medium warm gray. The stucco is a little lighter warm gray. This should be that same metal warm gray. The stone should be a little darker than it's shown. But otherwise, that's an accurate portrayal. There was a discussion about the handrail details, and this is the exact detail. We're going to face mount them with 3 3/4 between the metals, and then a nice detail in the metal rails, all tube steel. And the gutter brackets are a nice little steel detail with a 5-inch box gutter, square profile, and then the square profile downspouts that are shown on the elevations. There was a discussion about the roof paneling also being too wide, and so we narrowed the standing seam. We like this better as well. Then to the site plan would be the best place. There was a desire to, I'll do it on the landscape, widen the entry to the front door here, which does look better, and then angle it towards the front door so you are directed in a little more of a nice manner and a gracious manner, I'll say. So that was another thing. And then the cross-sectional details of the house. And the house is buried into the slope, as we talked about last time. And this shows the detail of the house as it exists, and then pushing the house back into grade. And that was better illustrated on the sections themselves at the two different places. So that you wanted to see the narrower section of the house and then the wider section of the house. So the house is definitely 50% below grade over the entire width of the house. Then otherwise on architecture, I think that was The rest would be grading and landscape, I believe. Okay. You want to take over on the landscape here? Okay.
So the entrance to the property currently is straight up the hill, so it's a fairly steep driveway. So curving it a little bit kind of relieved that slope a bit for the entrance. Entry gate down below with some architectural detail that'll then tie to the house above. We enter up into an arrival court. We've got some screening on the side to help buffer the neighbors, and some existing palm trees that will remain, a couple that would be relocated. Garage court is off to the side. There's an existing large yucca tree that we're preserving and then creating a succulent garden around it to kind of complement and accent it. The entrance to the house comes up this way through a staircase. We've got a focal element tucked into the planter here, and then an additional staircase that comes up, planter along this side to kind of create a planting corridor as you arrive to the front door. Some additional landscape on the north side. Here we're thinking of just keeping it very low water use, using black pebbles, and we haven't got into real planting design just yet, so this is a little preliminary, but we do have a preliminary plant list that kind of notes the type of plant material, sticking with the palms, succulents, low water use type plants, that combination. What else? Screening. There's existing screening along this side of the property that would be maintained. There's some existing screening along this end of the property because it has two street frontages, so that will be maintained and enhanced as well. Got a little, sloped path down to a lawn area. Pool, spa with connecting detail, and a terrace. Outdoor fireplace in this zone, and some deck space. And this is all sloped planting that would be drought tolerant, good for slope retention. Oh, and this garden is it hasn't been detailed yet, but from this terrace you'd be able to view down onto a geometric garden that would have some artistic elements. We've got a few art elements here also located like on axes with the pool, and then something, this is kind of a nice vista point out here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I make a couple of comments?
Certainly.
Thanks. So a couple of things. One is on the driveway. Of course, we're getting the slope to work, but the intent on that was definitely screening of parking up here by winding it, and you can see that's reflected in the landscape. We reduced hardscape and pulled the pool a little closer to the house, which worked better in a number of ways there. And then on this, they'd met with the neighbors next door prior to coming in, which supported the project. But of course, this was of real interest. So on this side, as well as there's some thinning and replanting along here, and then along that side, it would be at the basically after the house is demolished, is far enough away that we'd go right into planning on those and try to establish those as quick as possible during the construction process. And of course, neighbors are happy with that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, at this time I will open up public comment. Do we have any slips? Anyone from the public that wants to speak about this? Then I'll close public comment, and I'll turn it over to the board for any questions they may have. To start off with questions.
I don't remember the pictures of what's existing right now, but do you have any planting, perimeter planting existing right now?
This was all ivy, all the way around. And then this, we're right now is Pitts Forum.
Pitts Forum.
Yep, and that's basically it. And then this one existing tree, right?
Okay. So Pid undulatum, or you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
undulatum. Correct.
And that's kind of going all the way around.
Yeah, and it's a nice screen already. So.
Yeah. And I guess what I was wondering is, are they used to seeing? What are they used to seeing the neighbors or people? So that seems important. And then, so basically, you really can't look into it at this point. Okay.
And it's similar to what's existing also. Currently, the pit hedge, it would be the same as what's there right now. And the buffer on the side is, it's with the ivy, it's gotten fairly overgrown and neglected, so we'd be, obviously enhancing those planting areas as well. So the street front would look a whole lot better.
And that had a lot to do with the concept of the house. The house currently is way out in front.
So you have to speak on the microphone.
That had a lot to do with the concept of the design of the house, was to pull the house back into the existing screening and have more south-facing yard and pull it away from the street. Right now, it kind of looms over the street.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Lisa? Yes, Madam Chair. My question is about the maintaining the existing yucca next to what's looking like a new concrete garage court. I am curious about if you're planning on cutting roots.
Well, the existing garage and building is really close up to this existing, so.
Same court, garage is right there now.
So this is the existing court?
New surface, but exactly the same location.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be encroaching any further than what's already there.
Well, I'm just thinking that the yucca is going to uplift your concrete. So, yeah. That and is the roof color accurately?
No, that's way too dark. It's going to be an
Is this one more accurate?
medium warm gray. Yes.
Okay.
This is definitely closer.
Well, that's it.
Okay. Bernie?
Yes, just one for staff, please. Does the new 101% FAR include also still the reduction for the 50%, or is that out now?
No, that still includes that
That's
reduction.
still in,
Again, that
and
point of
it's-
that reduction is because it's not visual mass.
Because
That's
it's
why it's
under
allowed
the
to be
inner
reduced from the
basement.
FAR.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I was wondering about if you take advantage of that, 50% subterranean. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
question to staff. So it didn't go to the staff hearing officer because they redid the garage. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct. It no longer needs to go to the staff hearing officer.
And who is doing your Storm 3,
Tier 3.
Tier 3, that contractor?
Craig designs the studio.
We're
We're putting out proposals for that right now.
Okay. So we, in fact, then could give this project design approval.
Well, that's what
That's
they
correct.
want.
And I also recall that at our last meeting, when the neighborhood did speak on this, they were comfortable with the FAR, even though we requested to be reduced a little bit. So we went from what number to what number? We're down at 101 or something now?
We're down 117 net. So it's on the lead sheet. But we did take 250 out of the main house, but now we're counting the back of the garage.
Okay, gotcha.
So we definitely took a good chunk out at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, then we move to comments. Comments, anyone? No?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would make comments that, based on what I see now, I think this is a project that I would support. I think that based on the input we had from the neighborhood association and the immediate neighbors, that this plan does address their concerns. I appreciate the contractors volunteering the fact they're going to do some major landscaping immediately, even before the bulk of the construction starts. I also appreciate the fact that having gone out to the site and current approach driveway is being modified. I think that helps considerably of how the final design, and I appreciate the architect's responses to our questions from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a real nice design as well. I really do appreciate the landscape design and the configuration of this driveway, and a lot of the hardscape. I also really like the plant list. I think it's a good plant list for preliminary, and look forward to seeing more. Anyone else have?
Yeah, I drove by the property, and I think being the size of the property and the way that you've recessed it into the hillside, that I think it works very well.
Nice. Okay. So, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
All right.
for design approval. That it's consistent in appearance and has compatibility with the neighborhood. And it certainly has a quality of architecture and materials.
Okay.
We will be seeing more landscaping, of course. Any other comments?
Okay, then we have a second to that motion?
I'll second, and I guess I'd like to add that because they've gone around and talked to the neighbors and gotten the association supportive, then that meets guideline number 6.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. You have design approval.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right. We have to keep what went on camera. Yeah, we need this. Do you need this?
Great. Thank you. Great.
Thank you very much. All right, our next project is 616 East Valerio Street. This is a continued concept review. It's a second concept review. The project requires compliance with Tier 2 Stormwater Management Program prior to granting final approval. The project was last reviewed on February 11th, 2013.
Hey, Dale.
And we'll wait for some minutes to that last meeting. Oops, we didn't look at this.
And Michelle has some updated.
Do you want to?
Thank you.
Meanwhile, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Adele Goja. I'm with Harrison Design.
Okay, welcome.
And if I remember, the board's biggest concern on this was to study the configuration of the rear terrace.
Okay.
And so,
well, 1 second, let's read our minutes.
oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think you're about to address some motion. So this project was last reviewed on the 25th of February.
That's the 11th.
Excuse me, the 11th of February, I'm sorry. With the following motion. 1, revise the deck and rear stairs. 2, provide photographs to determine whether the size of the deck can be supported. 3, provide photographs looking towards the adjacent neighbors' private yards. 4, consider providing a section showing the topography of the site. 5, provide color materials board. 6, consider replacement of the existing gravel driveway. Action was taken on a motion by Zimmerman, second by Sweeney on a 6-0 vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, and your presentation.
All right. So I guess maybe to address the first item on there was to study the configuration of the rear terrace. And so what we've done is we've kind of clipped the corners, tried to give it a little bit more architectural style on the rear, and then integrated the steps. So the steps from the rear terrace then go to an intermediate platform and down to the rear yard. Also on the site, then, from the existing concrete apron, this is now antique red brick that's set. So that will replace all of the gravel drive. So one of the things I want the board to notice is the dashed line is the area of the existing porch that's going to be removed. And so it doesn't go any closer to the neighbor's property or the neighbor's corner of their house than what currently exists. This is a transition area to bring them from the terrace down to the rear yard. And what that looks like in plan will look like this. So this is the plan at the lower level. Again, this is the third-story basement down below. This is what it looks like at the main level of the house as it comes off the street from Valerio Street, because this is a sloped lot. This is at grade level from the street or at the first floor, but it is a raised terrace. So the existing terrace right now comes out to this corner here. And then again, the transition is towards this center of the property. And these are the colors that we have, the antique red brick. This is the body of the house. Dark clad windows with light colored trim. More of a creamy white, not a white. There's a existing dark brown shingles on it. We want to keep the similar color, maybe go to something a little bit darker but more dimensional, so the certainty of the landmark tiles just are a little bit heavier, give it a little bit more dimension on the roof. They like the bluestone, and there is sandstone on the house, but they'd like to bring in a little bit color and a little bit more texture. It's just different materials, so we're using Pennsylvania bluestone at the new proposed entrance. And so to pull off of that, we want to use some of the accents as that dark blue. So I did bring some photographs and some additional data. This is from the city public works. You can see the elevation at the street is at 242. It drops over 40 feet to get to the lower Arriaga Street. The development that happens really south of this, the orientation is not up the hill. It's really down the hill and out towards the ocean. This is what it looks like in an aerial view. This is the subject property here, showing the existing deck. These are the lower properties. This is a parking area for multifamily housing, and then this is the new St. Francis development. The only place that I could find from the neighboring streets to take a picture of what the new development looks like was standing here at Arriaga, going through the parking lot and just getting a corner of what that gable end looks like. It really isn't visible from any other public road. And I apologize for the quality on here. It's not the best, but there's two. These were taken at two different times, and I think they show or represent a couple different elements. This is a 180 view from the deck on what it looks like facing the neighbor's house. The deck itself, we can look in the aerial if you want to. The deck itself does not extend proud of the neighbor's home. So this is the development here. As you can see, it's pretty tight and close up to the street. So the deck comes out, but no further than the wall of the neighbor's house.
So that is even with the neighbor's house?
Yes. Yeah. So there are other photos that are in this set originally that we took from the edge of this deck looking back, almost towards the street at an angle towards the adjacent development. But this kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like facing either an adjacent development and out towards the ocean. It's a little harder to see the roof lines, and so that's why I wanted to bring this one. This was taken in the morning, so there's a very hard light that we're looking against, but it's easier to see what the roof lines are. This is this apartment, I think it's like apartment or multifamily housing here. You're seeing the top of that roof. There's no windows or anything, and the orientation of those buildings is really, again, on the downhill slope, not looking back up the hill. And I think there's one window here that might have a view, but because of the orientation of the development and the screening, mature vegetation, isn't visible by a public road or any development that I could see. So I was asked to do a site section if that helped to kind of communicate what the impacts were, but I was hoping that the photographs and this 40-foot drop in elevation would be enough to satisfy that. And we did recently retain someone to assist us with getting the Tier 2 SWIM on this project.
Okay. Anything else?
No, the rest of the project, we didn't change anything on the house.
Okay.
The only changes that we made were the configuration of the deck and the addition of the colors and materials.
Okay. All right, then. I'd like to open up public comment, but I don't see anyone in the audience, so I'll close public comment and open up questions from the board.
Madam Chair, could we go back to the photographs?
Yes, of course.
I just want to make sure let's see, there's the big long one.
The big one.
So, just a couple of questions. The window that you pointed out, I think it was in this photograph. That window there, where is that house on this one?
On here. I think it's this corner here looking. I think it's this corner here looking up.
That's
because,
an apartment building?
Yes, multifamily, because this large roof is this roof here.
Okay. And then on that side, that's the next door neighbor, because we're taking a big suite.
We're taking it right. So this is this neighbor's house.
Okay. And then in your current proposal, you're gonna basically cut off this corner.
Clipping that corner, that's correct.
Okay. And that's the same as this corner is going to get cut off.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. So just so I can get a visual, so you're cutting off the existing deck, but you're pushing it out as far back as even with the next door neighbor's house?
Do you want to look at the
Well, I wanted to know if you talked to the neighbor who's the closest.
Which neighbor is this neighbor? No, I did not talk to this neighbor. No. On the site plan, I don't know if you can see on your drawing or if you'd like to see here, the dashed line represents the existing deck.
Oh, I see, okay.
And that portion is being removed, and we're building a new deck. And the new deck is represented in the gray area. And this corner is from the surveyor's information. That's the corner of the neighbor's house.
And just, can you refresh my memory on the distance between?
Yeah, that's on the floor plan. And so this is the property line. We have a 6-foot side yard setback and an additional 9 feet that takes to the steps.
Thank you.
So then that means that this portion really doesn't comply to our 15-foot setback.
Barely.
That's correct.
Right.
As does the existing deck. So same location.
Any other questions?
Yes. Adele, if you could show me where the bluestone is going.
They're on the front drive here, Bluestone porch.
Okay. Well, I guess my
on the treads and the risers.
Yeah, we have to show that up here on the. And you have to show it up here on this plan.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I should have said that to you.
I think it's right here, right next to the color board.
Right.
So the bluestone is called out here. It's on the steps and the risers in the front porch.
Is this comment?
Well, we haven't finished questions yet, but you have another question?
No.
Okay. Jamie?
Okay, so just to clarify, so the bluestone, and then you have, is it brick leading up to that?
No, right now I
the
believe,
pathway?
yeah, right now there's sandstone in the front.
Oh, okay.
There are pictures.
Yeah.
All
On the
there.
pathway. Yeah.
Right in the,
All around it.
there might be photos of that.
Well,
We had
here's
photos
some
on the
photos.
original.
Oh, this is the other, this isn't it.
That's
We
not.
had photos on a large page on the original drawings. That might
There they are. We found them.
Okay.
Camera.
So the existing, the front of the house and the existing has sandstone. I guess it's not shown.
See it.
Not shown that well. These little planter areas.
Is this the subject property?
No, that's the house right there.
This
is the
That's
house.
right.
So these are, there's sandstone walls. Some of the walls are like curb height. Some of them are 6 inches to about 14 inches, just in the change of topography. And then the sandstone carries along the back of the house too.
Okay. Any other questions? Jim, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Questions?
Do we have an elevation of the front of the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
I was
that.
looking, it's,
that deck?
Of the deck?
Of the deck.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
A6
So you can see what the steps are.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Brian, any questions?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. Comments?
I do have comments.
Okay, Brian, why don't you lead off?
I like the approach you did with the rear stair. I'm just wondering, based on the style of the home, if perhaps, and this is probably a client-driven design, is the deck seems awfully big. You know, I wonder if it just seems too big. I mean, if it was pushed back maybe a few more feet, it would be more in context of the style. Because it's just, and I'm also having an issue with the 45 degree because I just don't. I see it squared off, but I'm curious to see what my fellow board members say in terms of the style. It's almost there, but not quite. Otherwise, I think it's beautiful. That's not my only comment.
Okay. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I would just kind of dovetail on Brian's comments. I know that we gave some specific ideas to the applicant
Which one
prior to
go?
visit. Floor plan, I think. But I too am a little concerned. I guess I can understand where the 45-degree cuts come from. I'm not totally comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay.
It's
But
a contemporary feel.
yeah. And I too I'm still grappling with the size of the deck, whether it really should be that big or not. So those are my concerns.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have
Yes.
one comment on
Yeah.
the stairs. If you look at the plan of the stairs again, the new stairs, where are they? Right here. You know, you have all the curved arches, a lot of nice things happening underneath. Why couldn't you curve that on both sides of the stairs instead of cutting it off? You could curve it on both sides. I think that might tie in better with the arches.
Madam Chair, are you saying curve in the elevation or in the plan?
In the plan.
Oh, in the plan.
Yeah.
So let me go back. So you're saying curve where? Here?
Oh, I thought this angled out. No, that won't work.
That won't work.
But good try.
Any other comment? Comments?
I just agree. I think we're so far that I'll be maybe the third one to say that the deck is going from 225 square feet to a proposal of 570, And because it's just bordering on even meeting our 15-foot setback, I think it needs to be reduced, maybe a compromise, to reduce the size of the deck somewhere in between what it is and what the proposal is.
Okay. All right. Lisa, how do you feel about that?
I tend to agree with the deck needing to be reduced slightly, and just the way considering the size of it now, the way the stair landing protrudes, I'm not that comfortable with that, or the 45. I like Jim's comment about possibly utilizing a round configuration. And my only other comment is I feel that since there's existing sandstone, and you're proposing antique brick, that the bluestone element would be one hardscape element too many, and I would like to see that be either sandstone.
At the front door? No.
Okay. Jamie. Oh, any other comments?
Sorry.
Jamie?
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just wondering if the deck pulled in from the sides a little bit would help, but also just, the stair approach just seems different. So it just seems like it could be worked on a little bit to integrate with the house and the style. I mean, the windows and the arches, everything is so nice about that it just throws it off. Doesn't seem to work with it. And I do actually like the bluestone. I like blues and sandstone together, but so there was some brick in there too, and
There's several drives on Valerio that have antique brick or red brick as a drive. And I believe even the
And
neighboring
so that's
home
where you're-
has it.
that's what
so
you're
just felt
proposing
that was fitting for the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, I think that the brick and the bluestone work really nicely together too. So I guess it's just incorporating that bluestone in a way that, pleasing. It doesn't bother me.
I have just another comment. What happens right under that? Right under the stairs? Is that where you're...
It's open. It's open underneath.
So you can see the stairs underneath there,
That's
right?
correct.
You're going from the large deck, and you're just kind of running into a railing, and these are so close together, it doesn't have a purpose, Why couldn't you start out with a wide stairs and then come down, so you can have stairs to sit on and...
If I believe the planning department did not want a deck with a rung of stairs added to the deck to transition from an upper level terrace to the rear deck. I spoke to two people at the counter, and it was their interpretation of the ordinance that if it was a straight run of stairs that could be removed, then that was it would be removed from the project. So I think if you remember last time we came here, I asked if it was a configuration that this board could support, could I then take it to zoning to see if it would allow that configuration.
And so they have not seen this yet?
No, you come here first. So it was my understanding a straight rung of stairs would not be allowed. So if we could go back, then we could go back to the original deck that's on there and just keep the original deck in its original configuration.
When you mean straight run of stairs, straight with no landing, you didn't...
I think they said that it was more of a they discouraged stairs from upper level terraces to the rear yard, and so if it wasn't integrated into the design of the stairs, they would not allow it.
It's supposed to get down to
Seems right.
And as I recall,
And
last time.
they also would not allow it, they would not allow it 15 feet from a property line.
So when you first came to us, I don't have the drawing, but maybe you could show us, when you came to us last time, you had a stairs, but what did that look like?
That was,
It was-
just inside that.
It was rectangular in shape, and the circulation was within the rectangular.
So the stairs was inside?
Inside.
Okay. And so we asked you to go back and consider a different stair
Stairs,
configuration.
and it was a
Let's
stairs
go
that was
down.
added, and it's stairs that maybe had approach from two sides that went to an intermediate landing, and
That's existing.
that's it.
This is it.
That's what you had last time?
Right.
Okay.
And so I think the direction, if you go back and look at the minutes, the direction was to have a stairs
Something more
that was
grand, yeah.
right, and that actually came from two different directions and went to an intermediate landing and then to the lower lawn. So
I think I'll weigh in here. What I think is not working. Well, first of all, I have to agree. I think the deck is too big. I think it needs to be reduced, and I think it needs to honor our 15-foot setback requirement for the deck. But somehow, I guess it's protruding too far this way from the house, and it's looking really awkward. And the steps, although I understand what you were trying to get at, it's almost as if if it were squared off and somehow they were at this level and maybe pushed back to the edges, these pieces, and then somehow, I'm not exactly sure how you would achieve that, but I think it's just the fact that it's projecting so far into the yard that makes it feel pretty awkward, and looks from the elevation side as though they didn't belong. That's the problem I'm having with them. And the fact that this does run, I mean, there's a terrace here too, so this is running the whole length.
it's actually, it's only
It's a balcony
3.5
there.
feet, so it's
Yeah.
really just to be able to get out and
Right.
from the doors and get
to the deck, right. It just seems pinched this way to me. I think that if we were going to do a grand staircase, there would be some other way to make it. Either it's wider. I think it has to be wider or something. I think that's what's bugging me.
So you'd like to see the stairs wider and the deck smaller? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's what I would like.
Madam Chair,
If I saw that proportion works for me.
can I comment on that? Dovetail on your comment.
Yeah.
I think to make this a little more graceful, that having this bottom piece be wider, I think that's what I hear you saying, I think a couple others have said, that piece wider, make these a little more integrated with the landing being part of the whole deck, and by moving, right now this deck sits out 16 feet. And we certainly aren't within the 15-foot line
It's right here.
right
So
there.
this whole piece is.
So maybe a compromise, I'm just suggesting it, maybe a compromise is bringing this back in, maybe not the full 15, but back in, bringing this piece in a little bit. Because I think that really helps how the thing looks in elevation. And then considering how you clip this corner, maybe instead of a 45, maybe it takes a jog. I don't know. I don't want to have to. We're not supposed to sit here and design this for you.
Right.
But I think what I hear the concerns are is that the staircase could be a little more graceful. I think I hear that people are kind of okay with the general approach, but it needs to be more graceful. And certainly the deck is too big. So moving the deck back. Right now it's 16 feet. Moving the deck back, say, 4 feet would push this whole thing back a little bit. I don't know. It's just a comment.
And if it wasn't clipped, then this could separate, and you could have a bigger landing there to create the wider steps coming down. I mean, something like that just a little bit more of an open feeling instead of this real pinched staircase. There's something about it in elevation that just doesn't work so well. But lovely attempt, and And so who else
Well, I
wants to
have
weigh in?
one more comment.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it would help if the thing that too is you've got this nice brick and the segmented arch, and then all of a sudden you have this deck thing with these. If
A lot going on there.
if the I know it's the back of the house, if the columns had some kind of decorative feature to it, like a crown, so it looks real decorative, so it looks like it's a part of the overall feel, because this looks, I don't know, I would predict this to be solid brick, to be consistent with the brick here, but then all of a sudden you have this deck, so.
I know what's hard on here too is you realize you're looking at
Yeah. But
variations
if you make that solid brick,
depths. Yeah.
then you've got this
All in a
dark
flat
little
elevation.
room in there that doesn't work, and I think that's why you want to open this, so that it brings in more light. So,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I keep wanting to see steps there,
Yeah.
in the middle, yeah.
Yeah. And then you could come to a landing
And
and
then-
then come down. But I keep wanting to see wide steps there. Yeah, it's a big deck.
Yeah.
So-
Madam Chair, I think
Yes.
it's clear that we can't redesign this, and
No.
it needs a little tweaking. So why don't we move off
All
of
right.
that and keep forward?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I
So-
would make a following motion, that we request the applicant to return to the full board, I don't know whether you need indefinite or 2 weeks, with a study of reducing the size of the deck, particularly as it extends to the, what is that, to the east? Or is it the correct direction?
South?
South. What elevation is this? This is to the south. To the south, that we get the deck reduced in size closer to the total square footage of the existing deck. That consideration be made for a study of reconfiguring the staircase so that it perhaps has a wider landing or some other configuration that makes the staircase a little more elegant. And that the board is not terribly enamored with the 45-degree cut in the deck, and that consideration be made to move both the east and west extension of the deck further in, as shown on the proposed south elevation on sheet A 6.2. That's my motion.
I second it. The only,
Does you second there?
Yeah.
Brian, you second that motion?
I'm just wondering, would there be a conflict if you say that, because over here, you have the garage door thing going on? Is it
I don't think so. I mean,
pushing it in?
No, I think there's a structural...
Oh, you mean pushing it back?
Yeah, well, no, pushing it in from the side.
This way?
Yeah. So that both sides are symmetrical.
So if we came back in 2 weeks and we removed the terrace from the project description and left the existing terrace as is, would the board support the house? Can we get approval on the house?
Well, we need to put that in the motion, how we are with the other.
Well, I find the existing deck to really not work either with the house.
It's
but
existing.
it's
And there's
existing.
things that we can do to it. We
Yeah.
can change the rail, we can do things, just leave the deck as it is.
Michelle?
If I hear you, I think you're saying just to
Withdraw the deck?
demolish the existing deck and replace the deck with new in the same location, same size.
Yep, same, yep.
Not
same.
to leave as is. 'cause I
No,
think
just
that's
same,
what it
same configuration, same, yep. Can I get the board's, I'd like the board's support or approval on
Well,
the house?
I'd have to see the
And
design
leave
of the new deck.
The design would be exactly as it is.
Madam
So it's
Chair,
on the-
I'm going to leave my motion the way it is, and then suggest that we might make a second motion just based on the discussion of the existing deck. I would not like to mingle the two motions.
Well, then I have to call for the question.
Well, I think first would be maybe to include in this motion that you're comfortable with the house, just so it's clear that
Okay,
the only
I can include
alterations
that,
are
Yeah.
There were
the house
generally,
deck.
yeah, we're in alignment with our last review that the house is acceptable. So if that's okay with the seconder?
Yes, that is acceptable. Oh, there's the deck. As far as the existing deck,
And then what I'm proposing, Brian, is to make a second motion on the existing deck.
here's a picture of it.
It's just a square, a rectangular deck with a straight run of stairs to the middle of the property.
Well, we have to complete this motion. So it's just difficult to,
Well, I guess my answer would be no. I can't
Well,
support it.
but I'm saying, let's make a second motion about
Okay.
it, so we can just get this motion taken care of.
Okay.
but you included things about the deck on this motion, so
Just the deck is being proposed,
as
not the
proposed now.
existing.
Right, okay. All right, so all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Then Madam Chair would make a second motion.
I heard an opposed.
Was it opposed?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, then I would make a second motion that the board would not support, I'm going to see how this flies, would not support a reconfiguration of the existing deck in terms of matching the proposed architecture.
I'm sorry.
Wait, how can we?
That's a motion. In other words, maybe I need to restate. The board would not support a resubmission of the existing deck
Design.
design. Let's just put it that way.
I'll second that.
Board members, Madam Chair, I think maybe what would be simplest is instead of doing a second motion, maybe just add that as a comment to say that the direction should be to redesign the deck and not keep, and that the existing deck is not compatible with the proposed architectural changes.
Right. That makes more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that.
So
I like that motion.
Okay. So I just want to make sure, Michelle, that I'm understanding this. If I come back with a rectangular deck, which is smaller in its size, and something that has already been permitted, that the board could not support that, is that correct?
Well, you see, and here's one of the reasons
That's the
why.
motion on the-
First of all, it would be built new, right? And it's still in our 15, it's not compliant with our 15-foot guideline, setback guideline.
And what I've heard is that it's just not compatible with
And
what
it's
the
not
architectural
compatible
changes
with
you're
the changes that
proposing.
you've made. It's not a good-looking deck. This one is much more good-looking than you did. We just feel it needs a little more work. That's.
So I made a motion, but I don't know if there's a second. Maybe I.
I'll second it.
I already seconded it.
Oh, you did?
I seconded the second motion.
But we're not really making a motion, we're making a
We
recommendation.
decided not to.
It's a recommendation.
We're scrapping the second
Question
motion.
of
That'll be
my-
a final comment to the motion to address this concern that was addressed by the applicant.
We're all tired, so.
Okay.
I just have one question.
Yes.
I'd just like to ask if any of my fellow board members are at all bothered by 3 different hardscape elements?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually am. I think that having sandstone, brick, and bluestone is too many hardscape surfaces myself as well. I forgot to mention that. And I also agree with Jamie that the brick and the bluestone are nice together, but you've got existing sandstone curbs and things. But is it also on the ground plane, the sandstone?
No, it's on the house.
It's
And
on the house,
and on
yeah.
the site walls.
So it's on the verticals.
It is, yes.
I see.
And it's existing on the site walls and on the house.
Yeah, and I think that brick and sandstone works nicely together.
But not the 3.
Yeah, the 3 is just a little too much, I think.
And the only place where we had bluestone was right
Just
at the front
right
porch.
at the
with
front
door.
porch. I know, it's
and
not
that's
that
still
much.
not supported by the board?
I appreciate both of your comments, but having walked the neighborhood and looked at the streetscape and looked at the palette of materials on the entire street, in this particular case, in this particular street, in this particular neighborhood, I don't find that out of place.
Well, maybe, but, well.
Because there are many
that's your
homes
opinion.
with 3 or 4 or more material
well,
changes.
and that doesn't make it
within
right.
Within a few, it's part of the neighborhood vocabulary, so I don't find it offensive. In another case, I might.
Okay.
but not
But the
in
board
this.
would
That's,
prefer to see. Would prefer to see it a little more homogeneous, yeah, and simplified. And that's just a comment.
That's my 2 cents.
It sounds like Fred's requesting to strike that comment from the motion. Is that true? Or are you okay with them to include it as studying?
Gets down.
I would like to ask for it
How
to be
many-
included as study the addition of only 2.
well, 2 people, I agree with your study. I mean, people have commented on it that.
And maybe bring us some visuals so that we could see what it looks like all together, 2 or 3 of them.
All right, where are we? Good question.
We passed a motion, right?
Yes, we did.
I didn't hear a final. Did you guys make a final
Well, we agree with your recommendation about the deck, so you added that.
alteration to the motion that's on the table? We still need a final.
Final vote? Okay. Final vote, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Have we confused you thoroughly?
No, is it okay if I record? Can you tell me, because I know that the minutes won't come out for 2 weeks, and if we come back on the agenda for 2 weeks, it's just a little harder to...
We'll get you a draft copy of the motion within a couple days. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
going to be posted for 2 weeks, but I can email.
You
we
can
can
email.
email.
I was going to have you read your notes to this, but if you could do that in a couple days, that would be great. Thanks, Michelle.
So this is an extension for continuance for 2 weeks?
For 2 weeks?
Or whatever you like.
Up to
2
2
weeks.
weeks?
Okay. Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, my goodness, we are having a hard time. All right. Then our next project, 965 West Mountain Drive. And this is a concept review, a new item. It's a proposal to convert an existing 488 square foot accessory building into a new 2-story, 1,120 square foot single-family residence located on a 10.31 acre lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposal includes a new 333 square foot 1-story addition and creating a new 299 square foot second level within the existing structure. Construction of a new 750 square foot detached 2-car garage is also proposed. An existing 119 square foot shed is proposed to remain. The proposal includes a reduction in size to an existing shade structure adjacent to the proposed new garage. The proposed development total of 1,926 square feet is 21% of the guideline floor-to-lot area ratio. This is a concept review. The project requires compliance with Tier 3 stormwater management program prior to final approval. Hello, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Sophie Calvin. I'm an agent for Mr. and Mrs. Bruce Hayashi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And let me see, staff comments? No? Okay, then we'll go on with your presentation, please.
I'm going to go directly to a site plan that we have. It's 10 plus acres, and so I'll give you a little bit. I'm going to go to the next page, and I'll jump back to this. This gives you a little bit. Oh, no, this is just a survey they want. Sorry, one more. Give you context of where it's located. I could go to the vicinity map, but this is Mountain Drive. It comes around here. It's in the loop, so it's one of the ridge. Thank you for that word. And so what I'm going to give you is the context of where the nearest houses are. And so what he has is he has an existing driveway that kind of come up this way, and he has an accessory structure here, and then these are kind of the areas of where we're proposing to do new. So I'm going to go back to the site plan, zooming in this way. So if you come around Mountain Drive, it's that really tight pin turn, and there's an existing dirt driveway, and there's an existing wrought iron gate already there. And from those photos, you'll see there's this 2-story looking accessory structure. It is 2-story in height, but there is no floor in there. So what we are proposing, it is an accessory structure. We need to convert it to a single-family residence. We're going to put a floor line in here. So that's the 299 that we're adding in. So this is the existing structure that you see currently, this footprint right here. And what we're doing is also adding an addition to, sorry, I'm upside down, I can't see, yep. So the addition's going on the other side of this. Or if you're looking straight on to this, we're adding on to this side. And there's an existing shed that's remaining, and that's that shade cloth. It's literally just a tall rectangular black shade cloth structure that's getting reduced in size, and I'll show you. There's the corner of that shade cloth. This is, I'm standing behind the hill looking down at that shed roof, and then that's kind of the back of the accessory structure. Here's the front. There's some French doors. It has a break of the roof line. There's the shed that's staying, but so that's where the floor line's going to come in, and instead of stairs going up, and then they'll add a kitchen. They already have it. They're going to add a bathroom, make it a residence. And the addition that we're adding, I'm going to go over to the. So currently it's this rectangle, and then above, this is that second story portion element. This is that shed roof behind. So we're adding this kitchen. They had a half bath. We're adding a shower, the staircase going up, and then this addition, a single story addition. That's a gable roof that goes across now. We're adding a little gable. So I'm going to go quickly to the elevation so you can see where the addition, that's the addition first floor. All these existing windows and everything, we're not changing any of that architecture of the existing accessory structure. And then we're adding a two-car garage, an oversized two-car garage. It's quite deep. It's 750 square feet total. And that reduces the shade cloth structure. So the shade cloth structure currently goes almost 3/4 of the length into that, and so that gets reduced down. And because shade structure is a structure, therefore it has to be separated by 5 feet from a new structure. So we're cutting that shade cloth structure down to only being 3 feet wide, and still remaining the length. So that has to be clear 5 feet, and the distance between that accessory little shed and the new roof line of the two-car garage. Those elevations. So imagine the architecture is plaster, all the details will be the same, the two-piece mission tile roof, but it is a large, deep two-car garage with a half bath in it. And there's the shed that's currently there. There's some existing walls. This is a little shade cloth in the back, shade cloth structure.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to open public comment. I don't see anyone coming forward for this project, so I'll close public comment and open up to questions from the board.
I have one.
That's the same as mine.
Can you just say that all over again? Where's the 3 feet you cut off?
The 3 feet we cut off of, oh, no, the shade cloth structure used to go, this is the final shape of the shade structure. It used to come all the way over here. It was a large, we had to reduce it because the owners want the garage in this location.
Okay.
Because, and we also have a larger overhang in the back of this roof.
Mm-hmm.
The roof line has to be separated, any structure on that shade cloth structure is considered 5 feet. As then 5 feet is determined here. So that's kind of.
I just have to ask, why are you keeping the shade cloth?
Well, they have plants there on site. They have,
Okay.
they've had,
It's a
I guess,
nursery.
it's kind of yeah,
Little
their
growing-
nursery.
Growing shed.
Yeah, they have a lot of
area.
palms and things just sitting in there, and I never
Okay.
really got into asking what they do.
It's not very much space to me to retain. That's all. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
no,
That doesn't seem like it's worth it. But anyway, it's not my
Do they
business.
have regular utilities up there?
Oh, they do have power, and they have septic.
Septic, and they have water?
They have
or-
water. They have, yeah.
Could have a nursery.
Yeah, it must have an ag meter. I'm not sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
if I may. I went out to try to look at this site Pearl Mountain Drive, so I just want to get myself oriented.
Do you want to go to the vicinity map? I can't really do it. Or do you want to go back to that one?
That other one, yeah. Okay. So when you go out there, as you drive down Mountain Drive, let's see, where am I? No, from Santa Barbara, from El Cielito.
It's this side then,
You're coming which way?
You'd be coming from that way, I think. If I recall, this is, I know this hairpin.
Yeah, the hairpin. Okay, so you're coming from this
Yeah.
way. Right, okay, so you're coming down Mountain
This
Drive.
is Gubador, not Gubador, Gibraltar's here.
Yes.
This is the canyon, this is Gibraltar.
Okay. So you're coming down.
Is this the driveway here?
No, that's mountain.
That's Mountain. Okay, yes, okay. Right, okay, now I'm
Yes.
okay, so you're coming down Mountain Drive. And isn't there a big kind of nice entry drive that takes a drive up to that house? And you
This driveway, you see it's depicted here.
There it is.
It's coming that way.
Yeah. So this used to be actually a client of mine, Carolina Casperson. This was a great old, well, it burned. There was a guest house, and this is the main house up there. And then she has stables down here. And then this down here.
Okay, I guess I'm confused because I thought I
This
drove
is
by.
a shared driveway
Right.
up here, and then goes up even further to.
There's a driveway at 633 West Mountain Drive.
Well, this is 965. So
I mean 933.
So it must go.
So it must be back here. So maybe it's that house. I was trying to figure out
There's a
what I.
driveway here, too.
Yeah, I think I saw what this is. Okay, I think I know where this house is. So then getting to the site plan. So on your photographs, where is that?
That's this.
And is that a shed or a garage or what is
It's
it?
a shed.
It's a shed. And the siding on it is?
It's stuck. Well, it's stucco. He just hasn't put the finish coat on.
Okay. And is the idea to paint that the same color as the main house?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's the shed, and then they're going to build this new garage. You get into the garage with the cars that way.
Correct.
And then it appears there's some kind of shop function at the back.
Correct.
On the back. And then the addition is over here. Okay. All right. I think I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair? Yes. Now, are these structures, are these rebuilds from the fire, or how did it come that there's the house, but it doesn't have a floor?
A barn or something, wasn't it?
It was an accessory use. I don't know. I didn't do. I wasn't involved with the original. I heard that the shed, there was an old shed there that burned in the tea fire, and so he rebuilt that recently. That's why it still has that unfinished plaster on it.
Was there a main house on this property?
No.
At any time? No.
So the new.
And at one time, there was a 5,000 square foot house review in front of. Is that correct number?
Yeah, there was a prior house that was approved, and at the time it was approved by Planning Commission for the hillside development on the slope of the slope, and it was nearly 6,000 square feet with a 1,200 square foot garage, and it was approved. Subsequently, it just was never. They never submitted building permits, so it was never constructed.
And I don't even know if that was my client. It could have been a previous owner.
Okay.
Yeah, it was several years ago.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Brian?
Madam Chair, I think it's very consistent with the existing architecture. I can support this project.
So, Madam Chair, my question, dovetailing on Brian's comment, maybe it's staff. Can we give this design approval? Could we make a motion that gives this design approval with details, color board?
In tier 3.
I don't know about landscaping, maybe that's a question. And have this project go to consent calendar? Can we do that?
Yes, this project is ready for project design approval. It needs Tier 3 SWIM before final approval can be granted, but
But if we gave it that, it could go to consent calendar for details. And
Final, yeah. Right.
So, but I guess my only other comment, and maybe it's a question to my fellow board members, is there any need for extensive landscaping or whatever?
Do they have any intention of doing any landscaping?
I haven't heard that they wanted to do any landscaping, but I was curious as to what the board would require. You can see in the
10
photos
acres
there's
here.
not much left.
No,
Not much there.
there's nothing much there, is there? except for a few oak trees.
And all those are remaining.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think this is pretty straightforward. Yeah.
So, if anybody else going to make any comments?
Any other comments? Can we go on to a motion? Someone want to craft a motion?
I would move for design approval with the finding that it's compatible with the rural nature of the neighborhood, and that the architecture materials are similar in palette and color to the most immediate residential properties, that the nature of the specific fire area has allowed the landscaping material that would be subject to fire has now been burned off, and that the remaining oak trees, et cetera, are compatible with this particular property, and that we would encourage when the applicant comes back to consent calendar for final approval, that a color board be submitted, that the colors be compatible and associated with the colors of the existing structure that's being proposed to be added to in the second floor, and that the board doesn't feel extensive landscaping is required.
Okay. Second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Jim will second. And under discussion, I just was noticing here in the pictures these concrete block walls here. Is there any intention to clad those in any way?
He'll plaster those.
He's going to plaster those. Okay. All
We
right,
should
great.
put that in the motion.
Yeah.
I would add that to the motion. Plaster on.
Plaster on
main
on-
concrete block
Yeah.
walls.
And there's an Allen block wall in the background there that.
But this was going
you
to
get
be
that?
painted to
Yeah.
match. Is that
Okay.
in motion?
And plaster over existing.
Yeah, I was understanding that all of the
Concrete
new
block
garage
walls.
addition and remaining buildings be matched to existing.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe
When
we should
the
vote.
existing, oh, sorry.
Well, one second. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I didn't catch
Plaster over the
what comment
concrete.
you had.
That there
Plaster.
are some CMU walls on
Concrete
site.
masonry walls, not the other retaining wall, but the concrete masonry walls need to be plastered.
The new ones?
And that all
Any
structures should
existing
be,
or new ones.
and then the paint color for all structures should be reflected in a color board that goes to consent. Okay.
So my
Yes.
question is, if we're going to match the color of and all the materials of the existing accessory structure, can I just write on the plans, match existing, No.
No.
You want a color
Yeah.
board, so I'll match
You have
the
to-
color
You have
that's
to
there.
find out what that color is.
Got it.
Or
it's
paint the whole thing again and have a new color that.
Okay, got it. I wanted to make
The
sure.
match existing is.
Doesn't
Yeah,
work?
Not anymore. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when would you like to come back to consent? Do you have any 2 weeks, indefinite? Should we give you an indefinite?
Yeah, I need to do
Oh, okay, it's
tier 3.
okay. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay, our next project is 1714 Anacapa Street, Lot 2. This is a concept review, new item. Proposal to construct a new two-story, 2,306 square foot single-family residence and an attached 482 square foot two-car garage located on a vacant 7,330 square foot parcel. The proposal includes associated flatwork, landscaping, and site walls. The design includes the roof location for possible future solar panels. This is a new parcel, Lot 2, created by a 3-lot subdivision approved by Planning Commission on October 8, 2009, resolution number 040-09. The proposed total of 2,788 square feet is 92% of the guideline floor to lot area ratio. This is comments only. The project requires environmental assessment. Compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management program is required prior to final approval. Hello, welcome.
Hi there. I'm Jarrett Gorin from Vanguard Planning. I'm the agent that represents the property owners on this, and I've got Gordon Brewer and April Palencia from Pikert Group Architects who did the architecture. And we have this and the next item, which are all part of the same subdivision, so we'll all do our best to try to keep these things isolated when we talk about them.
Okay.
Basically, we did this 3-lot subdivision back in 2009. These are both interior lots. They don't have any frontage on public streets. They're served off of a private driveway and not readily visible from anywhere. The neighborhood it's mixed. It's most of the properties that actually share common property lines with us are multifamily properties developed with pretty large apartment buildings. I provided a 20 closest homes analysis, although I'm not sure that was required. I thought it would be helpful, but just bear in mind that I had to take 20 lots that were single-family developed lots, so literally half or more of the lots that are closest to our property are developed with apartment buildings and aren't in that analysis. If you've walked around the neighborhood, though, I'm sure you're familiar sort of how it changes. And I brought some pictures of things. I turned these in with our application. I don't know if everybody has seen them.
No.
But this aerial shows it really clearly, just for the benefit of looking at it here. So this is our property right about here. Or no, right here is our property. And we've got an apartment building across the street, a really large 3-story apartment building. That's also across the street from us. Actually, I take it back. This is us right here. This is the 3-story apartment building across the street. And then that's a single-family home. This is like a duplex. Then all of these are apartment buildings that go up next to us. And then we've got just a large house and garage next to us on this side on Anacapa Street. And so you can basically see all of this side is basically, apartment buildings, churches, larger structures. And then as you go up this way, it gets into more single-family development. So we're right on the transition there. We are actually zoned R2 on our lot. So we have multifamily zoning, but we're proposing single-family homes on single-family lots.
Okay.
So that's really all I have to say. I'm going to turn it over to these guys to go through the finer points of the architecture, and then we can do it all again on the next item.
Okay, Gordon Brewer with Piker Group Architects. Although they're individual houses, because this is a single-family design review board, they were conceived, the 2 houses at least were conceived as a whole. I mean, it's kind of taking our clue from Saarinen admonition that we design in terms of the next larger context. But the one thing we really wanted to avoid was creating just a driveway and flag lots. So we really wanted to create a richly textured street in Spain, if you will. And for this house, which is the Casa Roble, which is the middle house now of this little village, if you will, it has this existing really oak tree, which is in need of repair, but Jared assures me that they're taking pains to make sure that tree survives. It had some dirt piled up over the roots and whatnot, but it's been pruned and it's going to be tended and cared for, and we see that as really one of the jewels of the site, is having that oak tree as a sense of relief as you come up this driveway, which again will be textured really nicely. We'll have this magnificent oak creating this really nice courtyard to create a wonderful sense of place for this little neighborhood that we're creating with these Spanish colonial style houses. If you look at this front elevation, this would be the elevation of the Casa Roble as viewed from the driveway. And what I didn't really draw in here in order just to show you what was going on with the architecture there would be a low kind of an organic plaster wall coming off of here with maybe a portal entry here to be developed so that we can kind of separate the vehicular access from this more pedestrian-oriented courtyard. It's a modest-sized home. We took care to try and diminish the mass at the perimeters of the house with some one-story elements. This element here, these are some 2-story here. It sheds down in the front. There's a little balcony and entrance taking advantage of the oak tree when you come in. Floor plans. It's oriented, the group space, is oriented south or southeast, if you will. This 1-story element with a steady, fairly open plan. And the flat roofed element over the garage, which will house any future solar photovoltaic activity on the little roof edge or a low parapet along that flat roof. Again, that's one of the ways we tried to mitigate the massing and mitigate the impact to the neighbors. And there's all of the elevations together. All in all, just basically, what we think is just a pleasing Spanish colonial little villa or casa.
Casa Linda. Okay, thank you. Anything from staff about this?
No, I just actually was going to ask the board and maybe the applicants if they would prefer to have both projects out
At the same
together.
time.
That way you can review them sort of as a development. You'd have to make two separate motions for each project, but I'll leave that up to the board and to you guys.
If we can do that, I'm happy to do that. I didn't know that we combined agenda items, but they're next to each other. So, I guess we are limited to comments only. I'm a little confused about that because the entire subdivision had full CEQA review back when we got that approved, and I'm not sure why an individual house on an approved lot would require environmental assessment.
I can address that. That
Could
was, the environmental assessment has been completed. I did that after the final agenda was done, so I was going to make that announcement that it is ready for project design approval. It can't have final approval until the compliance with Tier 2 SWIM is required.
Okay, I'm glad I asked.
Yes, Jim.
I'd like to see both site plans.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice too,
Yeah.
since they are
pull the other one out.
Yeah.
connected, and I could see
And
that.
we haven't, we did this on purpose. We did do this small inset on both of them showing the existing, because there's an existing house on this lot that fronts Anacapa Street. And so we wanted to show all three lots together, but we have, we'll throw out the other one there too.
Oh, I see. So if we do it kind of like this, maybe we can.
Yeah, I guess
one on top of the other.
Well,
maybe?
there we go. More
Well,
the
they want to see,
camera.
I think they want to
Pan
see the
out.
elevations
Oh, the elevation,
together. Yeah.
sure.
Oh, we'll do that too. But just to start out to see the facades in your beautiful renderings.
So where's the existing house that's there?
It's
Is that
Existing-
separate
no,
the
it's
two?
this.
No, it's
here.
in
front of
It's
it,
in
too.
front.
So it's in front.
This one's right
It's along the
there.
street.
When you
So that
drive
driveway we're
past
talking
it,
about is going
and
The
they're
driveway
trying to
comes up
put
through here,
two
yes.
back here.
I have a picture.
So that's
with this.
existing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is here.
This will help you. This is a picture of the most visible elevation of that front house.
Not very visible, really.
It's really hard to see because there's a big existing hedge in front of it. If you want to see what it looks like, this lot from the street, that's our lot. And this is the driveway entrance to all three lots here. And that's the top story of the front house that you can see. These are really sheltered interior lots. And then this is if you walk up the driveway and start, you can kind of see this is the oak tree back here. And then this building here is actually the back of a pool house on our neighbor's lot behind us. So it gives you a sense of how far back this goes. So you've got to go up our driveway to get that view.
This will be the view now, really, and
It would mask that off.
match that view right there as you're coming up there.
And that's just more of the property line.
Yeah, I drove by and it'd be difficult to actually see the second
Yeah,
house.
it's going to be really difficult.
And this is just neighborhood.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a good picture of all the
No,
surrounding
that's great.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is the second house. This is the Casa Ortizi. That's really a hybrid of the two, the couple that owns the house. It's not trying to get Italianate over there. And it is really the focal point of the driveway. So we obviously had a problem with the garage and the appearance of the garage. So we tried to mitigate that with this nice little portal and this organic wall that grows out of the house. As you come, let me see if I can get pointed correctly.
The driveway is over
Yeah,
there.
the driveway over here. So we have this little portal entrance here.
Here you're coming in this way, and here's your
Yeah, here
driveway.
we go. Yeah, here's the driveway. Here's the portal. There's the portal right here, actually. So that's, this is the that's that portal right there, exactly. Here's the oak tree, and here's this little, almost like a little village square that we tried to create out of the two houses. This is a very low wall, almost a bench, like a little Spanish banco, about 18 inches, maybe a 3-foot wall along here. So that visually this becomes, this front facade here with this nice window becomes, help to frame this courtyard. And again, to take the sting off of this long, narrow driveway to really create a nice sense of place and arrival when you get inside the little subdivision, basically. Again, we did some of the same things with this house to mitigate the impact on the neighbors. The second story portion is in the middle of the house. We're set back. The first floor is 6 feet, but there's a solar. This is the side that's most affected by the solar ordinance, and when you can see it on the elevations following, there's an existing 4 to 5 foot retaining wall here, so it really helps our situation with solar access because the grade is higher on our north side. So this is set back, I think, 10 or 12 feet to the second story here. The center part, the 2-story part, is a low-pitched, I think 3.5, and 12 with hip roofs to, again, mitigate the mass and blend in. A flat roof over the garage for future solar collectors, and a vaulted single-story mass in the family room there. The garage is a little larger than needs to be for 2 cars. The owners are avid bicyclists, so they wanted the rear of the garage to be devoted for their bicycles and their bicycle care and whatnot.
I got to point something out that I thought these guys did that was really just, this is partially a function of setbacks, but also a lot of just their excellent design. Whenever we have these long interior parcels, you always run this risk of a driveway. You're looking straight down this tunnel of driveway right into a garage door. And this thing is completely offset 10 feet off of the access of the garage, and then the portal's in there. And we had room for this tree here, which really, it terminates the view really well, I think. And I was impressed with how these guys handled it.
Nice.
So this again gives you a sense of the organization of the house. Again, it has a courtyard with a site wall to create an outdoor room, southeast facing, a little pergola outside. Fairly open plan, but with a fairly traditional organization, but opened up a little bit. Again, you can see on the second floor how the second floor mass is tucked to the interior of the house. And then the other 4 elevations, you can see how that grade helps the solar ordinance. Again, we just think this is another little Spanish colonial villa, and to help frame this really wonderful sense of place with the oak tree.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any questions from the board?
Can we go to public comment?
Yes, public comment, right. I'd like to open public comment. Anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this project can fill out a slip and come up and speak. No one's jumping up, so I will pass on. I will close public comment, although we may have some letters. Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We have received letters for both projects 1714 and 1716 Anacapa from Jim and Claudia Glass, who are tenants at 1712 Anacapa Street, and they are in support of both projects.
Wonderful. Okay. And
Is that the front house?
That's the front house.
That's the front house, yeah.
Is that just sold?
No, that house hasn't sold. All 3 lots are owned by a single property owner, and that front house is owned by them, and the Glasses are actually a tenant there. They may buy that house, but right now they're tenants in that house, and the same property owner owns all 3. Did our next door neighbor at 1730 write in, because he CC'd me on something maybe over a week ago?
The only 2 letters
Okay.
we received.
Okay.
okay, questions from the board?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes, Brian.
On the first house we looked at, just on the floor plan, this solid wall here, what was your reasoning for that? Is that for a privacy issue from an adjacent neighbor?
It was somewhat of a privacy, and I'm almost thinking it might want to have a little slot of a window in there, perhaps. Yeah,
I was
just haven't got
opening
there
it up.
yet. Yeah, some little
In fact, I was
sculptural.
thinking maybe that being a column, making that a 3rd column with an arch coming back, but
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I did a massing model of this, and I just didn't like. I liked the solidity of that end right there. And it really helped frame that porch. And when you look at that front elevation with the porch, I think it needs some strength on that side. But I agree. I think it could use some sort of a little surprise sculptural work.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Board members, I wanted to bring it back to public comment. I just received that there was additional letters received from the neighbor at 1730 Anacapa in supportive of the project, Monty and Patty Lingston.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'll take over answer the photographs. I walk this neighborhood quite often, and I did walk the site today in my stupid.
Excuse me.
This is part of my neighborhood, and I walk it quite often. And in fact, I walked the site today and walked down the neighborhood. On this photograph, right in this corner of the front house, there appears to be a lot of stone rubble that's inside there, and then there's a drain in this wall. So when you get to storm 2 or 3 water, do you have water running into this site? Do you have any idea where the water's going to go?
I can explain that. Yeah, we worked out the entire civil and drainage plan back when we did the subdivision. And the way this site works, and we can just look at this little inset plan here, basically the whole site sort of slopes. Obviously it slopes from here to here, and then it also slopes from here to there. The way that all these lots are designed is so that individually water can be collected and detained per lot and then overspill into a drainage easement that runs all the way down this property line and then terminates there, and it's collected and perked there as well, and then if it exceeds the percolation volume, then it overspills out of there. That's how that's
go to that corner.
Eventually it all ends up at that corner.
So having stood at this corner, I know in driving this street, yes, you're correct, this house is not highly visible, the existing one, but in walking it is. When you're walking here, you see this house. And regardless of how high this hedge may be. So that's why I was asking the question. The other question I have is on, this photograph here. That building right there, that belongs to, I've been in all these houses over the years, knowing the owners over the years, but I don't recall where this building is in relationship to lot number 3. Where is it?
That building is exactly from here to here behind lot number 3.
Is that what shows up on?
Do we show it on our
I
site
don't know that
plan?
we show it on the site plan. We probably don't.
Is that that?
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah.
That would be
So,
it.
so that's that building right there.
Yeah.
That's that house right there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that is.
I'm not sure that
Or
is
is
either.
that the other house?
This
that's the
pool
other.
house, that you're looking at right there is almost on the property
Yeah.
line. It is
So it's
directly
probably-
behind
it's
it.
over-
It
it's
goes
over
from
this
here to
way.
here.
Yeah.
So it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's a Santa Barbara Street address. It's a really nice Spanish remodel that somebody did.
I've been in the house. So this driveway here, you're indicating some texture. Is this texture going to change on this portion of the driveway, or just the new pieces? How are you going to treat that driveway? Or think you're going to treat that driveway?
Yeah, we haven't really fleshed that out. The owners are really fond of old world pavers, true stone pavers with the radius, pattern. So that's what we'd like to do, if we can afford that.
Okay. And then, having been in this yard for a couple of parties and in that house over the years, when I'm having in relationship to the second house, which I guess is this is that one, where is that house in relationship to this house?
That house is almost directly right here. They look directly into this lot.
Into lot 2.
Into lot 2 and lot 3. So Monty's house, he's got that huge oak tree in his front yard. His house is set back.
Right.
And then goes a long way back here, and then he's got his garage back here. So his house is directly adjacent, looking straight
Was
into
he
the
one of
Oak
the
Tree.
supporters of the
He
project?
he supports the
So
project.
he's one of the
Yeah, we've kept him really in the loop since, even back in the subdivision days, but especially since we've been working on the houses, because he's really the most impacted person out of anybody that really sees this
And
project.
this house down here, as I recall, sits lower.
Everything below us on Valerio is
And these
lower
are
than
the
us.
duplexes.
That's right.
Over here. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Moving to comments. Comments?
I have comment.
Yes, Brian.
On the first house, I think they're wonderful. I think they're very charming, and it's a shame you can't see more of them on the street. But I think that this area here, maybe exploring opening that, like you said, I think that needs some kind of piercing or whatever. On the second plan, I like the floor plan, but I think the FAR could be reduced. It seems a little large. Some of the rooms are pretty large. I think the FAR could go down a little bit. And that's my only comments.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm struggling a bit. I agree with Brian. They're delightful Spanish-style houses. I could just say, yeah, they're cool, go with it. But I'm really struggling if we're really talking about this as a little neighborhood village, which I think you described at the opening of your presentation, where we have kind of, in my mind, the closest thing this front house gets to, is kind of a Monterey balconied house, and there's a couple of houses like this in the immediate neighborhood. There's one up on the block up here. So I'm a little perplexed about the compatibility. If your intent is to make this a village, so to speak, of 3 compatible lots with compatible architecture, that doesn't work for me. Even though they're excellent designs, I mean, I could adapt them anywhere. But I'm really perplexed, and I'd like to hear from my fellow board members what they think. I would encourage, if the designer wishes to make this part of a complex, that they go to more of a Monterey-style balconied piece of architecture for the other 2 homes, versus, in some ways, almost a distinct cutoff. And they're more in relationship to this house. This is a wonder, in my opinion, wonderfully little designed, single-story, traditional Spanish house down at the corner. And that's certainly where these pieces of architecture are compatible with. But I'm not necessarily thinking that the idea that those are compatible with this, or even this piece of architecture here. It's certainly compatible with the house that fronts on Santa Barbara Street where the pool is. Obviously, this is a neighborhood that has a mixture of all kinds of architectural styles. We just looked at, 2 weeks ago, we looked at a project just immediately kind of on the next block up. That's the one you recall where we were dealing with the second floor, which was a whole different style of architecture. So I guess I'm just not convinced, and maybe my fellow board members can convince me.
Do I get a chance to respond?
Well, right now it's our comments, so we're going to continue on.
Well, I like the design. I'm almost tempted to say, why don't you redesign this house to match what you're putting in there?
That's what the intent is, it looks like.
Because I think these are really, really a great design, detailing, and proportions. But to drive by that and then approach this, I would do something with the existing house.
Okay, any other comments? Questions? Comments? Questions, we're on questions.
I agree. Oh, well, we're questions.
Well, if we're done with...
we're comments.
Okay. We were in comments, oh, excuse me, I'm lost. All right, then we are
I
in
think
comments.
that would be a good solution to
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So I agree.
Okay.
Because it's beautiful. They're both beautiful.
Any other comments? Brittany, want to weigh in?
Well, it is a little tricky. I think in this case, maybe, I know Michelle's already said that the FAR is a guideline, and so, because when I asked for the 20 closest homes, I know we're going to find there's some big estates in the neighborhood, and there's some cottages, and they're kind of mixed anyway, but with the large FAR, especially the second one, that means your yard is a lot smaller. So perhaps an idea is to reduce that size a little bit and somehow find some landscaping that connects the whole, I don't know, some similar landscaping from the very front, or somehow to tie it all together with something around it. I don't know, but I could support the style of the homes due to the neighborhood already having Spanish-style homes, and I think it's nicely done with the quality materials.
Did you already comment? Okay, I'll comment. I have to agree with Mr. Sweeney that that the two homes are standalone and apart from the front house, and that's a little disturbing. But with you're nodding and everything to prior comments here, I have a feeling that you have the full intention to redesign that front house, in which case it's not an issue. No, oh no, I guess not, Michelle.
That front house is existing.
Yes,
They're
it is
not-
existing.
And it's not part of the scope of work for this project.
It
So
isn't.
you need to review
I'll
this.
address this when it comes back to us, I think.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could add one more to my comment.
Okay.
The two houses being preserved are very much in the Andalusian language
Yes.
of Spanish architecture that we're all accustomed
Understand it well. Yes.
and very much in tune with George Washington Smith and some of the other great pieces of architecture we have. And as they're presented, they're outstanding. But in the context of that front house, I think they could move more to a Monterey approach to Spanish architecture, and to observe Monterey architecture.
It's beautiful too.
It's beautiful. It has balconies. It has a little more wood balcony elements to it. It's a little more simplified. If you look at the custom house in Monterey, if you look at some of the Monterey houses that are designed that way, I could see where the architect could come up with a design solution that would make it much more compatible with that front house. That's my opinion.
That's your opinion, and
No, I agree. I actually agree. Although I love these designs, I agree that they could go more. There's a happy medium somewhere in between. Are we done with commentary? Okay, then we'll entertain a
Touch
discussion.
on the Monterey style. First of all, I grew up not too far from Monterey, and my wife's brother practices architecture. He spent a lot of time in Monterey. And the front house is not really, in my opinion, an outstanding example of the Monterey style. And in Monterey, there are Monterey-style houses next to, that's one thing I love about Monterey, next to Andalusian George Washington Smith houses, next to storybook houses, you know. So to me, this is Monterey style. It's Spanish architecture next to a Monterey Anglo-influenced Spanish architecture. That's what Monterey means to me, having spent quite a bit of time there at least. So I think it's perfectly compatible. It feels like Monterey when I walk around there. It's part of Monterey that I've walked around in. But, and Jared maybe can address the floor area ratio issue a little bit more, but statistically, the thing that really drives that is really the one car,
the garage.
The garage for the bicycles, and it's a
not a large house.
one-story flat roof element that the walls of which aren't really much higher than the allowed 8-foot garden wall that you would have. So really, I don't think it's a little deceptive when you look at the numbers for that FAR.
Which one are you talking about?
The second house,
Oh,
which has the
because
large-
it has,
Because it has
At the far, far back of the lot.
garage. Let's skip the right one. up
but
on the
still
screen
it
here.
means it has a smaller lot than a smaller yard.
Yeah, we're substantially exceeding yard requirements for the house. I think our outdoor living space on that back house in the rear yard alone is a 40 by 40 or 40 by 45. We have almost twice the required open yard area as it is, so it is possible that it could be even bigger, but it's not like anything is being really squeezed or pushed on that lot. It is a 7,500 square foot lot, and the way that house is designed preserves both a deep and a wide rear yard for it, and it also presents a corner to the front elevation. We don't have a fully stacked 2-story elevation slammed up against a front lot line due to us trying to force square footage in there. We got a very reduced second-story element there, and Gordon's 100% right. What's driving that FAR is the fact that we are adding that garage square footage to the square footage of the house, I could instantaneously make that house be an FAR that you've seen all day in and out by just making that a standard 400 square foot garage. But unfortunately, that wouldn't meet our client's goal. And they have a lot of bikes. They have houses in other states. When they're in Santa Barbara, the reason they bought this lot and not other lots is they wanted to be downtown because they walk and bike everywhere. They bike to my office when they come see me, and they want a place to store their bikes, and that's why we proposed this garage. And that's why it's a 2-car width and a deep garage rather than a 3-car wide by a normal depth garage, which it easily could have been at the exact same square footage.
And I'm not sure what benefit it would really be to carve out, whittle out some of this space, and what, given that we're saving the oak, we've got substantial trees and a wonderful courtyard. This is on the north side of the property, so I'm just not sure what benefit that would be.
Also, I'm wondering on the architectural style. Again, these are 3 individual lots. I don't want to be talking against myself here. I did want to make sure everybody saw, the degree to which we tried to integrate these things with the common component of the driveway and the entry and everything. But they are 3 individual lots. Somebody could have easily just come to develop this one and left that one vacant. And we thought it would be better to do them both in tandem for a number of reasons. But I'm wondering if, there aren't some other ways we could soften the difference with landscaping, or, maybe alter the architecture on this middle house slightly. I mean, that's a pure Spanish house behind us, and on this corner here, I mean, you're right, the neighborhood has a whole bunch of different styles in it. So, I mean, I think there's a pretty strong argument for Spanish here, but I'm going to let Gordon make more of that argument.
I would add, if there's really a desire to have one or the other houses have more of a Monterey character, I suppose this middle house would lend itself, the massing lends itself more to that. This is more of an organic Andalusian style, as you mentioned, and that's really what the owners want. That's the bottom line. That's what they love about Santa Barbara, and that's what they wanted. So that's what we're trying to give.
Thanks for that. Well, I think you made a good point. Well, you did sort of talk against yourself there, because originally you said you're trying to make like a little street in Spain or something, and so when you set us up for that, then of course we're going to look at all 3 of these houses and decide, oh gee, are they really that? But once they are individual lots, and if we look at them as individual lots, then I think it becomes a little bit more clear, and then the neighborhood compatibility is definitely there, in my opinion. I mean, there's no problem with that. Okay, so this is comments only. No, not anymore. That's right. You told us that
so
they handle that. So we can give design approval, preliminary design approval if we see fit. And
try? Or do you want
go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
So I'm going to move this for.
Sorry, let me just clarify that
Sure.
you're making a motion for item number
The
6,
first one.
1714 Anacapa Street. What we're going to do is, after they make a motion, we'll formally issue.
So I'm going to do lot 1712 Anacapa.
1714, lot 2.
The big one. The middle one. I'm confused. What should I do?
This one.
But,
Well, what's
wait,
this address?
Madam Chair?
That's the whole property.
Oh.
It's confusing.
What's that?
Wouldn't we, before we give it approval, need to see more details?
This is just project design approval. It's not final.
We have to come back for final. 'cause we don't have our-
Continued, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. So I move to give it project design approval.
Yeah.
And that, can you want to come back indefinitely or in 2 weeks? Or
give us an indefinite, because we have to do all of the engineering.
Okay, indefinitely. We find the projects to be incompatible with the neighborhood. Pardon? Oh. We find the home to be compatible with the neighborhood and the quality of materials. There's possible discussion of changing the wall on the floor plan on sheet A2 at the front porch, of maybe putting an opening on the porch wall there. Possibly studying Monterey balcony, maybe, to be a little more compatible with the adjacent homes. The consistency and appearance is compatible with the neighborhood. I've already said that. Quality of architecture and materials is good. And the board supports the design, thinks the quality is very good.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, and all in favor?
Can we go to discussion
Just
first?
open for
Discussion?
Okay.
I'm going to vote against the motion based on the principle that I think that this second lot needs to be much more compatible in terms of the architecture to the existing house, and that I don't think it's achieved by just merely dealing with a Monterey-style balcony. I'm also concerned that if future photovoltaics are installed, I'd really want to see what that configuration looked like. So based on that, I'm not going to support this motion on this house.
Okay. Okay, so, any other discussion? Okay.
Well, yeah, let's think about that for a minute. So if we approve the motion, it could be just like this, because it's just a suggestion, what
Right.
Fred said. But if we don't approve the motion, and if we want to have the middle house have more of the characteristics of the front house, we have to have that in the motion.
You know, may I just say something? Have you all, I haven't been by to even see
I
that
know,
front
yeah,
house.
I've been.
And, I mean, I'm trusting the architect. If he says that that's not a really good, necessarily, example of Monterey, I think that we're kind of shooting in the dark here. Anyway.
So then
Madam
let's
Chair,
vote.
board members,
Yeah.
I just make some quick comments. Generally, I only got 3 comments here. One was PDA with NPO. Second was, and the second and third were just studies. One said study opening on porch wall and study adding Monterey-style balconies. Just to give some feedback back to the board. Generally, when you're granting a project design approval, you would want to maybe consider not saying study, more as saying given a specific direction. So either you can grant project design approval with this motion, that's fine, I'm just presenting this option, or you can continue it and ask them to study it and then bring it back to you.
Well, personally,
2 options.
I'm comfortable with the designs. I like them. I'm sorry, I like them. I think they're compatible.
Well, then do you want to rephrase your motion?
Well,
Keep it the same, that's fine.
I would study the Monterey balconies, but if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But I really appreciate the design, and I think as far as the neighborhood compatibility, and when I think of the other houses we've approved on this board today, considering at the Mesa, I think this is...
That's a bad example.
I know, I think this is a beautiful design.
Okay. So the motion has been made. Did we have a second?
I second it.
Jamie seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. And that will be continued indefinitely. No, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, for final. Okay. And our next project. All right. Who would like to make the motion for 17? Nope, sorry.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
I presented both plans just so you could see that in context, but I'd like you to officially open this as an item,
Okay.
number 7, and proceed from there.
Okay, so now how do we officially open 1716 Anacapa Street, Lot 3? New item, concept review, proposal to construct a new 2-story, 3,060 square foot single-family residence and an attached 762 square foot 2-car garage located on a vacant 7,500 square foot parcel. The proposal includes associated flatwork, landscaping, and site walls. The design includes the roof location for possible future solar panels. This is a new parcel, Lot 3, created by a 3-lot subdivision approved by Planning Commission on October 8, 2009, Resolution 40-09. The proposed total of 3,822 square feet is 125% of the guideline floor-to-lot area ratio, comments only. Project requires environmental assessment. No, not any longer. That has been taken care of. But it does require compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management before granted final approval. All right. And we've heard comments about this. So we want to open it up again, like questions from the board again, and do all that? All right. Okay. Okay, well, we're opening public comment on this. I see no one racing forward, so I'm going to close public comment.
Madam
And
Chair.
now it's open. Oh, and letters, yes, we have letters.
Yes. Same as before, since it's a similar project, but we received a letter from Jim and Claudia Glass, tenants at 1712 Anacapa Street in support, and a letter from Monte and Patty Flegston at 1730 Anacapa Street.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I could just add that this is the house that the owners do intend to occupy probably close to half of the year, and they're really falling in love with the house pretty much as it is, and they again are really avid bicyclists, and we don't really think that this extra square footage really does much harm to the development. We still have a generous southeast facing courtyard, and we're trying to be respectful.
Okay. Thank you. And any other questions?
I do have a question, Madam Chair. Are there decks on this house?
There's one little wrought iron balcony right here.
What about that?
In the rear yard.
No.
That's just a flat roof for solar panels.
Oh, that's what
There's
it's...
one little balcony off of the master bedroom. They intend really to utilize this outdoor room that we're creating with the little garden wall. It's really intend to spend most of their time outdoors, and this balcony is just a typical little observation balcony, if you will.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This house I can support because of its location and where it's situated and how it's oriented, particularly in its relationship to the back neighbors. Although when they come back for final, I'd like a little more understanding of where that pool house sits with the relationship to the windows, so we don't get into some privacy window issues. And I'm not terribly concerned about the 125% FAR, given where that square footage is, which is essentially the garage, and given the fact that we have a neighborhood, particularly in this particular block, that's a combination, has been pointed out, between fairly dense multifamily houses immediately adjacent, some larger homes immediately adjacent, so forth and so on. So in this particular case, and I know we're always sensitive to FARs, I don't find a big problem with that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other comments? No? No? Okay. All right. Who would like to craft a motion for this project?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Right.
For design review or project design approval that has consistency in appearance and it's compatible with the neighborhood, and looks like the quality of architecture and materials is well done.
Okay.
We'll need a landscape.
Yes, we'll be seeing landscape.
Yeah, landscape plan. Yeah.
Okay. And we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, Brian seconds. All in favor?
Wait, one more thing.
For discussion.
What about, do we want to make any comments about the solar panels?
I think they're wonderful.
The roof located there.
I think it's a great idea.
So you think that's
You were mentioning solar panels just on the other.
They're on the garage.
They're
on the roof of the garage?
On this one too?
Yes.
Yeah,
So we're okay
I
with
think
that?
if I had it my way, every house in Santa Barbara would be required to have solar panels.
Okay.
I think they're a good idea, and they have a parapet wall around
they're
that, so
being
you're not
filled
going to
with
see them. So, but that's good that you brought that up. Absolutely. All right. So, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Wonderful. And project design approval, and we'll look forward to seeing your landscape plans and all the other good details. Good architecture.
Madam Chair, before you adjourn, I
Yes.
just wanted to bring your attention back to a motion for item number 3, 3232 Campanile Drive. That was granted project design approval with NPO. Pretty much the only comments I had on the motion were to provide a final landscape plan, Tier 3 SWIMP, and provide details. The motion was not specified whether you wanted it to come back to full board or consent.
What's this
We
that one?
see the materials and the colors and all of that.
They provided a lot
They
of that
did.
material.
The deck railings.
They provided color renderings and et cetera.
Yeah, they had a lot of color. It was the one where you had that glossy and the roof color was a little darker than you wished had happened. Yeah, they had quite a lot already.
Let's get a consensus from the
how do you
board,
feel,
full board, or-
I'm trying to think, I mean, it's an awfully big house. It's a huge house, so we want to make sure. Yeah,
Full board.
yeah.
So just an amendment to that motion
Yeah.
to acknowledge that you continued that indefinitely to full board.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, and at this time, I will adjourn the February 25th, 2013 Single Family Design.